Chapter 1284. Su Yu's eyes flickered slightly. The tree goddess was extremely worried. His strength is far above mine, which means that he is at least equivalent to the sixth princess. Who could it be? No matter who it is, but… Su Yu slowly got up, his expression gradually turning serious. The demon pursuers have finally arrived. He had taken away the 4 princes and princesses of the demon world, making it impossible for the giant of the bitter sea to retrieve these illusionary reincarnations, hindering the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons. It was completely expected that he would be hunted by the demon world. However, they came faster than expected. In just 2 or 3 months they had caught up. The most unexpected thing was that they had found Su Yu's location so quickly. It was really unusual. Who is the father of the Central Prefecture's king? Su Yu murmured. After a moment of contemplation, Su Yu said, "It's time to speed up and migrate as a whole. It's not wise to stay on the side of the demon world for long." "Shimen Jian, Linlang Fan, come in," Su Yu said. Su Yu informed them of the news of the demon pursuers. Shimen Jian and Linlang Fan were also quite surprised. "Alliance Master, what do you think we should do?" "First, send the strong deities to investigate. Aren't there a group of deities waiting to atone for their crimes? Order them to go and find out about the enemy. If they are meritorious, everything in the past can be erased. Second, speed up the overall migration of the Great Western Alliance. Time waits for no one. After I messed up the demon world, no one can predict what will happen next. This place is already extremely unsafe." Shimen Jian said in a low voice, "There is no problem with the first point, but I'm afraid the second point needs further discussion." "Speak," Su Yu asked. Shimen Jian said, "The Great Western Alliance's perseverance has been in the demon world for millions of years. Not only are they used to this place, but more importantly, this place is the foundation of the Great Western Alliance. More than 100 cavern worlds separated from the foundation is not something that can be done overnight." Su Yu understood this point. Just like the world of divine remains, it relied on a broken emperor-based saint artifact, the 9 demons' god sealing ring. Otherwise, with the power of the Star River, the cavern worlds would be blown away in the starry sky, unable to be fixed in one place, let alone connect the 9 cavern worlds into one. The Great Eastern Alliance was fixed somewhere in the starry sky. Most likely, it was under the Alliance and had something to rely on. It was conceivable that a broken emperor-based saint artifact was needed to bear the weight of 9 cavern worlds. Therefore, it must be extraordinary to bear the weight of hundreds of cavern worlds of the Eastern Alliance and the Western Alliance. This was the foundation that Shimen Jian was talking about. These reserves might not be very powerful, but they had a unique use for fixing the starry sky. It was still too early for Su Yu to take control of the Alliance, and he had yet to fully grasp the legacy of the Alliance Masters. Hence, he had yet to see what the so-called heritage of the Great Western Alliance was. However, the fact that the Great Western Alliance was willing to take the risk of fighting the demonic realm at close range and refused to leave showed that it was difficult to find a second such foundation in the galaxy. There's no need to doubt my words. The strength of the demonic world is beyond your imagination. Mobilize all the deities, abandon whatever you can, leave this place, and meet up with the Great Eastern Alliance. The 2 of them left the Alliance Master's residence with bitter smiles on their faces. "Isn't the Alliance Master a little too afraid of the demon world?" Shimen Jian couldn't help but ask. After all, it was an alliance that had fought against the demon world for millions of years. Before Su Yu's arrival, they had always believed that the strength of the Great Western Alliance and the demon race was on par. Although Su Yu had told them about his experiences in the demon world, they had not witnessed it with their own eyes. Hence, they were still holding out hope. Linlang Fan frowned. Judging from the Alliance Master's character, he is by no means a timid person. To make him so afraid, I think we should speed up our departure from the Foundation and head for the Great Eastern Alliance. Shiman Jian nodded. He still had some doubts in his heart. Before witnessing the true strength of the demon world, he found it hard to believe Su Yu's story of wolves rearing sheep in a pen. They carried out Su Yu's orders. 6 god-level experts, leading dozens of prospective gods, marched in the direction of the demonic realm in a mighty manner. An investigation operation of such a scale was very rare in the history of the Great Western Alliance. Some of the more sensitive creatures sensed that something was amiss. Furthermore, with Shiman Jian and Linlang Fan as representatives, they sped up the speed of the cavern world's departure, which made people even more nervous. Could something big be about to happen? In the depths of the cold and dark starry sky, a mass of blood-red demonic cloud floated across the starry sky quietly with a bloody glow. In the bloody glow, a dying divine soul was firmly bound by the demonic cloud. His divine body was nowhere to be seen, and so was his godly spirit. If any deity of the Great Western Alliance were here, they would recognize that this dying divine soul was none other than the former Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance, Luo Huan. Back then, he had clamored viciously, saying that he would make a comeback one day. In the end, he had fallen to such a state? Lord Commander, we are 5 days away from the Great Western Alliance. An extremely imposing demonic god stood coldly at the head of the demonic cloud. Behind him, the demonic gods were as silent as cicadas in winter, not saying a word. Yes, I have already sensed the breath of the creature that escaped from the demon world. Unless someone stronger than me strikes, he will not be able to escape my senses, the imposing demonic god said slowly. He looked down at the bound Luo Huan's divine soul and said indifferently, "He is no longer useful. I will reward him to you." Upon hearing this, the many demonic gods behind him revealed greedy eyes. They opened their bloody mouths and were ready to pounce forward and devour the divine soul. Luo Huan was scared out of his wits. "Wait, Lord Demon World, I am still useful. As the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance, I have mastered many useful things." Luo Huan looked at the imposing demonic god in front of him and could not help but shudder. Although it had been 10 days since he met him, he would never forget the power of this demonic god for the rest of his life. From the beginning to the end, he only used one hand to suppress him, the strongest man in the Great Western Alliance, crush his body, and devour his godly spirit. The ability that made Luo Huan despair still made him tremble when he thought about it. Before meeting him, Luo Huan did not believe that such a powerful and terrible person still existed in the world. His mind was completely crushed by the appearance of this demonic god. He finally believed that Su Yu's words were true. The demon world was strong, so strong that it only treated the creatures of the Star River like sheep in a pen. From the conversation of these demonic gods, Luo Huan learned that this demonic god was called the demonic god of 6 paths. He was the strongest man below the demon emperor, as Su Yu had mentioned. "Your position as the Alliance Master has been taken away. What else can you do?" The demonic god of 6 paths said indifferently. Originally, they could not find Su Yu because the aura of the 4 princes and princesses was concealed by some unknown method, so they could not sense the specific location. How could they find Su Yu in the vast Star River? However, Luo Huan, who was captured, told them an important piece of news. A strong man who escaped from the demon world had appeared in the Great Western Alliance. The demonic god of 6 paths sacrificed his divine blood and tried to provoke the curse left by the Central Prefecture's king in the direction of the Great Western Alliance. As a result, the curse was triggered and Su Yu was found. Because of this, they identified the direction and went straight to Su Yu. Luo Huan had contributed a lot to all of this. Luo Huan said immediately, "I know a lot of ancient books and records, which have been passed down from generation to generation in the Great Western Alliance. Only I, the Alliance Master, know them. If you want to know ancient books and records?" The demonic god of 6 paths shook his head indifferently. Behind the demonic god of six paths, a pretty demonic god's maid sneered and said, "The history of the demonic realm has been recorded for millions of years. What's the broken records of the creatures in the Star River?" If Su Yu were here, he would definitely recognize this female servant. She was the first servant of Princess Yun Yen, Cauldron, a human. The existence of the demon dimension was much more ancient than the creatures of the Star River. At least in terms of historical records, the demon dimension was definitely more complete than the creatures of the Star River. Cold sweat dripped down Luo Huan's forehead. All of a sudden, an idea occurred to him. Wait. As the Alliance Master, I know a lot about the foundation of the Great Western Alliance. I believe this should be able to serve the lords of the demon dimension, right? Cauldron frowned. The foundation of the Great Western Alliance? This was recorded in the history of the demon dimension. However, only the demon emperors of each generation knew the details. The ordinary creatures of the demon dimension didn't know about it. The foundation is very mysterious. Not only can it withstand the pressure of hundreds of cavern worlds, but it also has extremely powerful power. If it is used properly, no one in the Star River will be able to withstand its power. Cauldron's face turned cold. Are you trying to scare us just to save your life? If the Great Western Alliance really had such a powerful foundation, it would have destroyed the demon dimension long ago. Moreover, in the history of the Great Western Alliance there were several times when the demon dimension was almost annihilated, but I have never seen you use it. Luo Huan knew he believed her when he heard her tone. He said, "That's why I said it must be used properly." In fact, Luo Huan didn't know how to use the power of the foundation. He was just trying to scare them to save his life. Cauldron cast an inquiring look at the demonic god of six paths. The demonic god of six paths' eyes flickered, and he said calmly, "Spare his life for now." Luo Huan heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with hatred as he thought to himself, "Silver God, it was you who put me in this situation. I want you to end up like me, like a ghost." He didn't dare to resent the tyrannical demonic god of six paths, so he could only vent his anger on Su Yu. In a house in the Great Western Alliance, Gong Sun Ye, Gong Sun Wuxie, and Luo Fei were extremely grateful. "Benefactor, you saved my life again." Gong Sun Ye was grateful and guilty. "I didn't listen to you, Benefactor, and fell into your trap. I almost caused you to be doomed eternally." Su Yu waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. Luo Huan is a schemer. If he wants to harm you, it will be difficult for you to defend yourself. You should leave the Great Western Alliance and find a remote place far away from the demon dimension and the Eastern and Western alliances. Live in peace," Su Yu said. He made this decision so that they could live in peace after going through so many hardships. They didn't have to participate in the war between the Xing River and the demon dimension. He had already saved Gong Sun Ye twice. The first time, Su Yu had deceived them with a great magical power, but the second time, Gong Sun Ye's body and soul were destroyed. If he appeared in front of outsiders again, Su Yu's ability to bring the dead back to life would be exposed. Therefore, the family had to leave the Great Western Alliance. "I don't want to. I want to be with Brother Su Yu." Gong Sun Wuxie pursed her lips and hugged Su Yu's arm. Su Yu shook his head. "If I am still alive in 10 years, you can come to me again. Now leave the demon dimension quickly. This is not a place for you to stay. You deities, send them away." Wait. This time it was Luo Fei. He hesitated a little and took out a snow-white fishing rod from the space ring. "Thank you, Benefactor, for saving me several times. Luo Fei can't repay you. This fishing rod is for you." Su Yu stared at the fishing rod and felt a little familiar. He said, "What is this?" "I accidentally found it in a relic of the Xing River. It was held in the hands of a deity whose corpse had not decayed for millions of years." A corpse that had not decayed for millions of years? Logically speaking, it was impossible, unless it was like the first demon emperor, who cultivated the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons to nourish his clone. The only explanation was that the corpse that had existed for millions of years must have been a peerless figure when it was alive. So you couldn't help but think of the records in the ancient book. In the past, there were many overlords in the Xing River. Chapter 1285. Even my father doesn't know about it. I've kept it a secret until now, Luo Fei said. I don't know about the function of this thing, but I used it to fish up an undead spiritual herb from the heaven pool of the Great Western Alliance. The undead spiritual herb was the one that kept Gongsun Wuxie at the age of 10 forever. As far as Su Yu knew, there was no record of the undead spiritual herb growing in the Star River. Luo Fei feeding the herb to the dead Gongsun Wuxie could be explained. However, where was the heaven pool? Was there such a place in the Great Western Alliance? Su Yu thought about it and returned the fishing rod. It's too precious. I can't accept it. Luo Fei smiled. It's because it's precious that I chose to give it to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live in peace after leaving the Great Western Alliance. Gongsun Ye also said, This is a token of our gratitude. I hope you don't mind. All right, thank you. Su Yu cupped his fists at them. You deity, please send them away. The Yu deity took out a flying boat and sent them away from the Alliance into the boundless Star River. Take care of yourself on behalf of the Alliance Master, the Yu deity said. Gongsun Wuxie's eyes were filled with tears. Why didn't he let me stay? I didn't do anything wrong. The Yu deity smiled gently. He didn't let you stay for your own good. The Alliance Master is busy with something important and can't take care of you. If he didn't care about you, he wouldn't have sent you away. That's all I have to say. Take care. In the Alliance Master's mansion, Su Yu sighed silently. He was a little disappointed. Familiar faces were disappearing from his life one by one. He didn't even know if he would see them again in this life. When can I stand at the peak of the world and stop sending away people who are close to me? Su Yu's helpless and lonely voice echoed in the empty hall. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the entire Great Western Alliance trembled violently. It was as if something huge had broken away from the Alliance. Su Yu glanced around and found the glittering family was the first to move their cavern world out of the Alliance. Su Yu's body flashed with 5-colored brilliance as he teleported to the sky above the Linlin cavern world. Looking down from above, the glittering family cavern world was built on a milky white lake. Could this be the foundation of the Great Western Alliance? Su Yu wondered. Looking at Shimon's cavern world, which was almost out of the cavern world, he could faintly see the milky white surface of the lake below. That's interesting. I wonder what the Great Western Alliance is relying on. Su Yu was intrigued. He returned to the Alliance Master's manor and continued to read the ancient books inherited by the previous Alliance Masters. A few days later, Su Yu finally learned the information about the Great Western Alliance from an ancient book. Heaven Lake? Isn't this the Heaven Lake where Luo Fei fished up the undead spiritual herb? Su Yu asked in surprise. Could it be that the Heaven Lake that Luo Fei mentioned was the foundation of the Great Western Alliance, a milky white lake? The origin of the Heaven Lake could not be recorded in history because this milky white lake had existed before the establishment of the Great Western Alliance. Strangely, even though it was surrounded by water from the Milky Way, no matter how much water from the Milky Way flowed into the lake, it did not flood the lake. Even after so many years, the water level of the lake did not increase. It was as if there was a bottomless pit at the bottom of the lake, devouring all the starry river water that entered it. That was why the cavern world was built on top of the lake. I didn't expect to be able to fish from the lake. Luo Fei found something interesting that was not even recorded in the ancient books, Su Yu said with a smile. After reading the information related to the Heaven Lake, Su Yu held a bronze-colored ancient book in his hand with great interest. This ancient book was dedicated to introducing the Heaven Lake. Most of Su Yu's understanding of the Heaven Lake came from this ancient book. There was one page that Su Yu was very concerned about. This page had somehow been torn off by someone. Suyu would not have cared too much about it, but the scent left behind by the person who tore off the page made Suyu take notice. If he was not mistaken, that scent belonged to Luo Huan. Why did he tear off this page? What was written on it that made Luo Huan tear it off? There were no less than 100 Alliance Masters in the Great Western Alliance. Why was Luo Huan the only one who tore it off? Intuition told Suyu that the page that Luo Huan tore off might be extremely important, and he did not want Shimin Jian, who was fiercely competing with him, to see it. After pondering for a moment, Suyu's eyes emitted a three-colored ray of light, shining on the broken page. Time, space, and soul, the three main elements of power that made up the world, fused into a different space. Time flowed back, and a small area appeared on the broken page. When time flowed back to 3 months ago, a scene suddenly appeared. A hand fiercely tore through the page, completely tearing it off. At the same time, it revealed its owner. Who else could it be but Luo Huan? Time flowed back again, and Suyu finally saw the content of the torn page clearly. Every word and sentence was very clear. He memorized all the content in an instant, because when the time was up, the different space was destroyed. Returning to reality, Suyu's eyes were filled with shock. Is there such a terrible power hidden in the Heaven Lake? That page recorded an extremely terrible event, which happened not long after the Great Western Alliance settled here. One day, the Heaven Lake rolled, and a destructive force shot out from it. It went straight to the demon world, penetrated it, and even seriously injured the giant of the Bitter Sea. This happened millions of years ago, and it was recorded in detail on this page. It was so long ago that almost no one knew that a destructive force had been shot out from the Heaven Lake. Only those who had flipped through this page knew. Humph, this Luo Huan is very careful, erasing such an important record to prevent Shimin Jian from harming him. Suyu snorted lightly. If Luo Huan had not done this, Suyu might not have cared about this page. Unfortunately, it was discovered by Suyu. What was known was that some kind of terrible power was hidden in the Heaven Lake, but how to open it was unknown. It is necessary to investigate the Heaven Lake, Suyu murmured, and quickly went to the Heaven Lake. A few days later, several deities moved their cavern worlds, revealing a large part of the Heaven Lake. Suyu teleported to the side of the Heaven Lake and fixed his eyes on it. According to the records, the Heaven Lake looked like water, but creatures could not touch it. Once they fell into it, there was no record of them ever returning. Even if non-living things were put into the Heaven Lake, they would be sucked away by an inexplicable force. With a thought, an abandoned treasure appeared in Suyu's right hand. He used a touch of the mortal fairy's strength to entangle the treasure and slowly put it into the Heaven Lake. As a result, as soon as it touched the Heaven Lake, the treasure seemed to be entangled by some extremely strong sucking force and sank suddenly. What was even more shocking was that the sucking force had an effect on Suyu along with the mortal fairy's strength. Suyu's eyes narrowed, and he decisively cut off the connection, so that he was not affected just now. What an amazing sucking force! Suyu was secretly surprised. Then, Suyu tried to throw a few things, without exception. The water of the Heaven Lake could not be touched at all. Even the slightest touch would be sucked away. But how did Luo Fei catch something from the Heaven Lake? With a thought, a snow-white fishing rod appeared in Suyu's left hand. The fishing rod was warm and had a scent that Suyu was familiar with. A slender fishing line and a fish hook were tied to the fishing rod. After carefully sensing it, Suyu did not feel anything special about the fishing rod. Let's try it. Suyu held the fishing rod in his hand, threw the fishing line forward, and it fell into the Heaven Lake. He was ready to throw the fishing rod at any time to avoid being affected. However, the strange thing was that the fishing line fell calmly into the Heaven Lake and was not sucked in. What the hell is this fishing rod? Suyu was surprised. It was recorded on that page that all the creatures who tried to touch the Heaven Lake in the past, whether they were ordinary creatures or peerless masters, were all sucked in together with their treasures without exception. But this fishing rod was an exception. Curious, Suyu tried to shake the fishing rod and accidentally hooked up a broken short sword. After trying several times, Suyu kept hooking up strange objects. Although they were all ordinary things, Suyu gradually had many speculations about the Heaven Lake in his mind. Oh, it seems that there is a great discovery. Suyu's eyes were filled with excitement. If his guess was correct, the bottom of the Heaven Lake must hide secrets that involved the entire Xing River for millions of years, including the secrets of the glorious era of the past, which was destroyed overnight. Putting away the fishing rod, Suyu's eyes lit up. At this moment, suddenly, the sky above a cavern world was filled with divine blood. A deity had fallen. Suyu's eyes narrowed. Are they here? Swish. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan teleported in front of Suyu and said in shock, Alliance Master, it's the deities who went to investigate in the direction of the demonic dimension. One of them has been destroyed. Shimin Jian's voice had just trailed off when suddenly, blood rained down from another cavern world. How could this be? 2 deities have fallen in a row? Linlang Fan was shocked. However, what shocked them even more was that a 3rd deity had fallen in quick succession. The 3rd. Shimin Jian was shocked. 6 deities and dozens of prospective deities. Such a powerful combination had killed 3 deities in a short period of time. Then, the 4th and the 5th. Finally, Suyu was shaken. Suyu was not surprised that 5 deities had been killed in a short period of time. He was not surprised that the demonic dimension was full of experts. What was strange was that none of the 5 of them had had time to send a message. Even if the first prince killed all 5 of them at the same time, there was no guarantee that he could stop them from sending a message. What level of holy magic hall deities did the demonic dimension send? Could it be a general? Suyu was bewildered. Beep beep. All of a sudden, a jade pendant on Suyu's waist flickered rapidly. It was a jade pendant that could transmit images from extremely far away. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were delighted. Finally, one of them has escaped. Quick, let's see what message he has found. Suyu said solemnly, I'm afraid this message might not have been sent by that deity, but... He crushed the jade pendant, and a clear image appeared before his eyes. However, it was not that deity who had appeared. Instead, it was an extremely majestic, dark red demonic god. His body was densely covered with strange runes, giving off a ferocious and barbaric vibe. His eyes were indifferent and extraordinary. Beneath his feet, a deity was being trampled. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not budge. The dark red demonic god looked over dispassionately and said, Sea-Watch City Master, long time no see. I am here. Pow! The image shattered. Shortly after, divine blood rained down. The 6th deity had perished. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were people who had seen much of the world. However, when they looked at the dark red demonic god, they felt a chill run down their spines. They did not dare to move. It felt like a mortal standing in front of a deity. Who is that? Shimin Jian felt a chill run down his spine. He finally believed Suyu's words. The demonic dimension had terrifying powers that had never been revealed before. That terrifying demonic god was one of them. Chapter 1286. He had expected that the powerhouses of the demon realm would hunt them down, but he didn't expect that it would be the demonic god of 6 paths. With his strength, who in the galaxy could be a match for him? Apart from the god of death, no one had the confidence to contend against him. The sudden change of events caused Suyu's heart to sink to the bottom. According to the message, the place where they met was less than 2 days away from the Great Western Alliance. 2 days. Where could he find the god of death? Even if they found him, how could they convince the god of death to help them fight against the demonic god of 6 paths? There was dead silence in the hall. The demonic god of 6 paths gave Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan a terrifying impression. It was especially so for Shimin Jian. Before this, he had suspected that Su Yu was being overly cautious by moving in such a hurry. However, after seeing the image of the demonic god of 6 paths with his own eyes, Shimin Jian knew that everything Su Yu had said was true. The demon world possessed a terrifying power that far surpassed theirs. The demonic god of 6 paths alone was not something that the Great Western Alliance could resist. Moreover, the demonic god of 6 paths was not alone. Behind him, 10 demon gods with extremely powerful auras could be vaguely seen. A few of them were not any weaker than the deities of the 10 great anti-demon families. This is the true power of the demon world? Shimin Jian swallowed his saliva, and a sense of helplessness rose in his heart. Su Yu shook his head. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There were also hundreds of demon gods from the Holy Magic Hall who had yet to appear, as well as the giant of the Bitter Sea who had yet to make a move against the outside world. Shimin Jian's face was pale. Swish, swish, swish. 6 gods had fallen one after another. This was second only to the previous purge. All the gods were alarmed and rushed to the Alliance Master's residence. Well, it turns out that Shimin deity and Glittering deity have arrived first. What's going on? 6 deities have fallen. Could it be that Alliance Master Su has decided to purge them again? Shh. Don't speak. Can't you see that Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan don't look too good? Hey yeah, why does Shimin Jian's expression look like he's in despair? The 100 gods discussed among themselves as their gazes swept across the 3 of them. They were all guessing if their ruthless Alliance Master had done something again. Be quiet, Su Yu said expressionlessly. The 100 gods quickly quietened down and waited quietly for the Alliance leader to explain the cause of death of the 6 gods. I'm sorry to inform everyone that the Great Western Alliance is facing an unprecedented crisis. Su Yu's face was indescribably serious. At this point, there were some things in the demon world that could no longer be concealed. Alliance Master, the Great Western Alliance has weathered through countless storms and disasters. Is there anything we can't overcome? That's right, Alliance Master. We will defend the Great Western Alliance with our lives. Su Yu waved his hand to silence them and said in a low voice, the crises that the Great Western Alliance has experienced in the past cannot be compared to the one we are facing now. With a flick of his sleeve, the scene from before appeared before everyone's eyes once more. The hundreds of deities clearly saw a dark red demonic god stepping on a deity of the Great Western Alliance with 1 foot, rendering him immobile. The dark red demonic god emitted a destructive aura, causing the confident gods to freeze in place. Bang bang, bang bang. The scene gradually quietened down. No, it was completely silent. The sound of hearts beating violently entered everyone's ears. Even the strong-willed gods were shaken by the sight of the dark red demon god, and fear appeared on their faces. Those who were not strong-willed shivered and almost collapsed to the ground. They had been fighting against demons all their lives and had never seen such a terrifying demon god. Just a mere image was enough to make them feel fear from the depths of their souls. It was as if they were on the same food chain, and the other party was a creature that was higher than them. Looking at the reaction of the deities, Su Yu was not surprised at all. Even Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were shocked by the horror of the demonic god of 6 paths, let alone the rest of them. They had been defeated before the war had even begun. They could not be counted on any more. Moreover, an existence at the level of the demonic god of 6 paths was not something they could handle. Now, do you need me to reiterate the relocation of the Great Western Alliance? Su Yu asked calmly. Before this, the 100 deities nominally obeyed, but in fact they were slacking off. They resented the relocation and were extremely dissatisfied with it, so they delayed it in every way possible. However, the continuous fall of the 6 deities and the terrifying demonic shadow finally stimulated their nerves. How could they still have the slightest doubt? You only have 2 days to relocate. Leave all unnecessary things, even precious resources, and leave the heaven pool immediately. All the cavern worlds that have left the heaven pool set off for the Great Eastern Alliance without stopping. Swish, swish, swish. Many of the deities turned pale and returned to the cavern worlds they had created, moving quickly. Some of the deities who had been obedient and had already left the heaven pool looked relieved. One after another, they brought their cavern worlds and gathered in the direction of the Great Eastern Alliance, according to Su Yu's order. The deities who had been slacking off were in a flurry. All of them wished that they had been born with a pair of hands and feet. When they returned to the cavern worlds, they shouted at their clansmen to stop the relocation. The relocation, which had been progressing slowly, was suddenly in full swing. Countless cavern worlds abandoned their important resources and forcibly left the heaven pool, fleeing toward the Great Eastern Alliance at the cost of their vitality. In just one day, more than 50 cavern worlds had left, leaving behind a mess of resources. Some deities even made up their minds and refined their cavern worlds into godly spirits before fleeing. In this way, the cavern worlds that they had painstakingly created were destroyed in an instant. More than half of the remaining 50 deities had left. They should be able to leave completely within a day. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan said, "Alliance Master, you go first." "No, I will stay," Su Yu said. "No. The demonic god of 6 paths came for you. If you don't leave, how can you fight them?" Linlang Fan said anxiously. Now, Su Yu was the spiritual leader of the Great Western Alliance. If he died, the Great Western Alliance would fall into internal strife. Even if the demons didn't attack, they would kill each other and decline rapidly. "It is precisely because he came for me that he can't leave with you," Su Yu said solemnly. Only when Su Yu attracted the firepower could they have time to escape. Otherwise, few of them could escape successfully. "Shimin Jian, Linlang Fan, you should leave as soon as possible. This is an unfinished feud between me and the demonic dimension," Su Yu said. How could Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan agree? "If our lives are exchanged for your sacrifice, what is the point of our existence? No matter how far we escape, we will inevitably die in the future," Shimin Jian said. Su Yu shook his head. "No, your existence is not to fight against the likes of the demonic god of 6 paths, but to fight against the deities of the Holy Magic Hall. No matter how strong the demonic god of 6 paths is, he is only one person. He can't destroy the entire galaxy. Only the deities of the Great Western Alliance and the Great Eastern Alliance have the power to do so. Just like when both sides fight, no matter how strong the general is, he can't affect the outcome of the war. What really affects him is the millions of soldiers under him. Preserve your strength so that you can fight against the invasion of the demonic dimension in the future. If you still regard me as the Alliance Master, then go." Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were moved. At the moment of life and death, the Alliance Master had chosen to sacrifice himself to protect them. The deities who were in the midst of migrating stopped one after another, stunned. "But if you stay, Alliance Master, aren't you courting death?" Shimin Jian asked. He was completely convinced by Su Yu. Su Yu's expression was calm and composed. "I may not die. This is the birthplace of the Great Western Alliance. I will fight to the death with the strongest of the demonic dimension here. All of you leave immediately. I can feel that they are almost here." Su Yu touched his chest. The curse was gradually heating up, and the seal of the tree goddess was non-existent. Shimin Jian, Linlang Fan, and the 50 deities bowed to him in unison. The bow was accompanied by the rumbling of thunder, as if it had affected some kind of existence in the unseen world. Only the great path of heaven and earth was qualified to receive the bow of the deities. Su Yu accepted it calmly, which naturally triggered a celestial phenomenon. Vaguely, the 10,000-foot-tall virtual shadow of the deity behind Su Yu became much more solid. His jet-black hair fluttered in the wind, and his disdainful posture was worthy of worship. At the same time, Su Yu was surprised to find that his godly spirit had suddenly expanded a fold during the worship of the deities. The godly spirit of an early-stage perspective deity had skyrocketed to the level of a middle-stage perspective deity. What's going on? Suyu was shocked. Logically speaking, there were only two ways to increase the godly spirit. The first way was to convert the mortal fairy's strength in his body over a long period of time and convert it into divine energy. The divine energy would then slowly nourish the godly spirit. The second way was to deprive others of their pure godly spirit, but the effect was minimal. Only 10% of the original godly spirit could be absorbed, and long-term consumption was not advisable. However, the worship of the deities actually made Suyu's godly spirit grow explosively. It simply subverted Suyu's understanding of the godly spirit. At this time, a complex and gratifying sigh sounded in Suyu's mind. You have not yet become a deity, but you have opened up the path of faith. I really envy your master, that old guy, for being so lucky to have picked up such a precious disciple. Opened up the path of faith? What is that? Suyu was surprised. The evil god was very secretive. This is related to the great Tao. Even I don't dare to say too much. You only need to know that you have embarked on a path that many gods envy but can't achieve. Congratulations. After that, the voice of the evil god fell silent. Suyu was curious. What kind of path had he embarked on? Unfortunately, the evil god seemed to be afraid of something and dared not speak nonsense. Suppressing his curiosity, Suyu sent all the deities of the Great Western Alliance away. Half a day later, the heaven pool that used to be full of cavern worlds was empty, leaving only the 6 cavern worlds that had lost their deities. No one moved them. Suyu couldn't help but sigh. The cavern worlds that had lost their deities were equivalent to precious godly spirit. The godly spirit that created the cavern worlds could be extracted from them. In normal times, it was a rare treasure, especially when it was so well preserved. But now, no one cared about it. It would be troublesome to even take it away. Then, I will accept it without hesitation, Suyu said, summoning the god Kailan. These are all yours. Suyu pointed to the cavern worlds that no one wanted. Hearing this, the god Kailan's eyes lit up, and he was ecstatic. I'm rich. This is a complete cavern world, without a trace of damage. If it is refined into a godly spirit, not only can I completely restore my former position, but I can also cultivate at least 3 deities. The cultivation method was similar to that of the Central Prefecture's king, who became a deity through the Jojo cavern world. Like a silkworm, he absorbed the vitality of the cavern world and slowly became a deity. You can choose a reliable Jojo creature as a candidate, Suyu said, not hindering the god Kailan. Chapter 1287. Suyu raised his eyebrows. Oh? Has she reached stage 4 of the mortal fairy? Of course. All the high-quality resources are given to her first. Coupled with her special death phoenix body, her cultivation speed is doubled. If she didn't deliberately suppress it, she would have already entered the ranks of prospective deities. Hearing this, Suyu was overjoyed. Xian was about to become a deity. Since he came to Xing River, he rarely had time to see Xian. Suyu couldn't help but feel guilty. Now that there is a cavern world for her to use, it will be much easier for her to become a deity on her own. I believe you will soon have a prospective deity as your wife. God Kailan returned the favor by deliberately observing Qin Xian. Thank you, Suyu said. I'm just using your things. By the way, the black and white mortal fairies have also entered the realm of early-stage prospective deities. Recently, they are consolidating their cultivation. In addition, there are several others who have obtained the celestial energy sphere from you and are also trying to break through the realm of prospective deities. I believe there will be many deities in the Jojo Cavern world soon, God Kailan said excitedly. Suyu nodded. God Kailan, you can decide the affairs of the Jojo Cavern world. I won't ask too many questions. God Kailan stared at Suyu for a long time and said, Suyu, I guess you must have wondered why I, as a demon, created human beings, right? Suyu had always wondered about this. In any cavern world created by a god, the main creatures in it were all the god's clan. God Kylan was the only exception. However, Suyu had never seriously considered the reason behind it. Judging from the tone of the sacred Kylan, it seemed that there was a mystery behind it. Yes, but is it very important? Suyu asked. God Kylan nodded seriously. Yes, it is very important. I was asked by a great man to create human beings. What? Who can order you? Suyu asked curiously. God Kylan said. He is the only remaining world overlord in the Xing River. I believe you will meet him soon in the calamity of the realm of demons. World overlord? Hearing this, Suyu was greatly shocked. In the Xing River, there was still a world overlord in the heyday. According to the records, he could destroy more than 100 cavern worlds with one finger. Just thinking about it made Suyu's hair stand on end. Why did he ask you to do this? Suyu asked. The sacred Kylan shook his head and said, I can't tell you, because I promised that overlord that I wouldn't say a word. If you meet him, I think he will tell you everything. After saying that, the sacred Kylan retreated, unwilling to say anything else. Suyu stood there for a long time. Unintentionally, he had obtained quite a number of secrets. Evil God was talking about faith power, the overlord of heaven and earth that God Kylan spoke of. Speaking of which, both of them were abnormal deities. Shaking his head, Suyu set aside the news for the time being. His expression became solemn as he waved his sleeves. 9 figures appeared in front of him. The first prince, second princess, sixth princess, and the 6 city lords. I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The 9 demon gods, who had yet to come back to their senses, were stunned. The 6th princess reacted the fastest. Her pretty eyes flashed. Listen to me first. The good news is that you might be free soon. The first prince and the 6th princess were shocked. The 6th princess blurted out, Really? However, she soon realized that Suyu had not told them the bad news. She said seriously, How bad is your bad news? Very bad, extremely bad. More specifically, the Holy Magic Hall is here to kill us, and the demonic god of 6 paths is leading the team. Clang! The first prince lost control of his chi and shook the demonic sword out of his arms. His eyes flashed with shock. Really? Swish! Suyu waved his sleeves, and the image of the demonic god of 6 paths appeared. The pupils of the first prince, second princess, and 6th princess shrank, and their faces changed dramatically. The demonic god of 6 paths. The 3 princes and princesses were raised by the demonic god of 6 paths. In their minds, the demonic god of 6 paths was invincible, like a giant mountain that could not be crossed. It was unexpected that he would come to kill them in person. With the current situation of the demonic dimension, they needed the demonic god of 6 paths to quickly quell the rebellion. Why would he go out on a mission? The 6th princess's face was full of despair. The bad news you mentioned, do you mean that even if we get freedom, we may not be alive to enjoy it? Suyu nodded calmly. Exactly. The first prince and the 6th princess's faces suddenly became very grave. Even you have lost your fighting spirit? Suyu sighed. The 6th princess smiled bitterly. You don't know how powerful the demonic god of 6 paths is. Even if we join forces, we will never be able to hurt him. So? You know you will die, so you choose to sit and wait for death? Suyu said calmly. The deities of the Great Western Alliance can leave if they know they can't defeat them. But can you? Don't tell me you don't know who the demonic god of 6 paths is after this time. The panic in the first prince's eyes gradually calmed down. He stroked the demonic sword with his palm, and his whole body emitted a fierce aura. You are right, running away is useless. Even if you know you will die, you have to use the sword to leave a drop of the enemy's blood. even if it is the demonic god of six paths. The sixth princess smiled bitterly, and her mentality gradually changed. Was there any use in being afraid? Even the second princess sighed helplessly. Alas, we still can't escape. As for the rest of you, Suyu looked at the six demonic city masters. They exchanged glances with each other, all of them intending to retreat. They were not under Suyu's control. They followed Suyu only because he could give them an honorable identity. But now, the lives of Suyu and the three princes and princesses were in danger. Was there any point in following them? Catch up with the Great Western Alliance. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan will take care of you. The six demonic city masters felt as if they had been pardoned. They bowed to Suyu gratefully and immediately moved away. It was the same bow to the deities. This time, it did not trigger any celestial phenomenon, nor did it increase Suyu's godly spirit. The three princes and princesses had no objection to Suyu letting them go. Their strength was too weak compared to the demonic god of six paths. They would be of no use except to die. It was better to just let them go. Alright, please get ready. We will fight the demonic god of six paths to death. The sixth princess took a deep breath and made up her mind. The first prince and the second princess also revealed a resolute expression. Die? We may not die. If we make proper arrangements, we still have a chance of survival. Suyu's eyes shone. What? There was a chance of survival against the demonic god of six paths? If someone else had said this, they would not have believed it. But Suyu's words gave them a strong sense of hope. Everything that Suyu had experienced made them almost blindly believe that this young human had the ability to constantly create miracles. What he said would often become reality. Take the recent incident with the Great Western Alliance for example. Suyu once told the Gongsun deity that as long as the Gongsun deity sincerely apologized, things would stop there. At that time, everyone would probably think that Suyu was arrogant. A mere mortal fairy boasted shamelessly in front of a deity. However, the consequences of the Gongsun deity's resistance were unexpected. The Great Western Alliance was turned upside down. From an outsider, he had successfully taken control of the entire Great Western Alliance. Now, when he said that they still had a chance of survival, it really gave them a jolt. You said that we won't die? Do you mean that we have a chance of survival? The sixth princess looked at Suyu with reverence. She asked again in disbelief. Suyu smiled lightly. No, we won't die. I mean, if we don't die, they will. Hiss. Even the first prince opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief. You mean the demonic god of six paths? Yes. If the arrangement is done properly, we can kill all of them. The three princes and princesses were shocked on the spot. Kill the demonic god of six paths? They didn't even dare to think about it. But the strength of the demonic god of six paths. The sixth princess was shaken. She felt that this plan was more difficult than the miraculous escape from the demonic dimension. Suyu said, his strength is indeed invincible. However, invincibility depends on the occasion. If it were elsewhere, I wouldn't be able to do anything to him, but here. Suyu looked back at the huge heaven pool behind him and said with a faint smile, he may not be invincible. All the cavern worlds were moved away, revealing the endless heaven pool that stretched across the starry sky. The milky white lake water gently rippled and rippled. This is the heaven pool of the Great Western Alliance? As the royal family of the demonic dimension, they had dabbled in ancient books. It was no secret that there was a strange heaven pool under the Great Western Alliance. However, wasn't it too childish to use the heaven pool to deal with them? Master, I think the demonic god of six paths and the others should know that the heaven pool can devour everything in the world. I'm afraid it will be difficult to use the heaven pool to deal with them. Suyu smiled mysteriously. So what if they know? Because they know, it will be easier for me to make arrangements. Swish. The four of them teleported to the center of the heaven pool, less than 10 feet away from the water of the heaven pool. The 3 princes and princesses were extremely cautious and vigilant. From now on, strictly follow my plan. Here's the plan, Suyu said slowly. Upon hearing this, the 3 princes and princesses were shocked. Is there such a thing? Suyu smiled mysteriously. They were nervous and excited at the same time. Perhaps they could really destroy all of them. Time passed little by little. The curse on Suyu's chest was getting stronger. The mark of the demon's head was constantly beating, as if it had sensed something and was about to jump out of Suyu's body. They were close. Although they hadn't shown up yet, the vast starry sky had fallen into a dead silence. In the Xing River, the wild beasts that usually wreaked havoc had sunk into the depths of the Xing River, trembling with fear, not daring to reveal the slightest breath. It was as if some extremely terrible things were slowly descending. 2 hours later, an unknown wind blew in the Xing River. The silent Xing River set off waves of ripples. 2 hours later, the ripples of the Xing River had turned into waves the size of a palm. Half an hour later, the waves had become waves that were half the height of a person. After half an hour, in the Xing River, a giant wave that was 10 feet high was set off. After a cup of tea, the initial ripples gradually turned into giant waves. Chapter 1288. The blood cloud was accompanied by thunder and lightning. It was also accompanied by a magnificent pressure. The Star River trembled violently under the pressure. The trembling waves were transmitted to Suyu continuously. As they approached, the waves of the Star River became stronger and stronger. Finally, they are here. Suyu stared at the blood cloud. He could vaguely see 9 magnificent demonic figures in the blood cloud. After a short while, the blood cloud was approaching. Under the illumination of the blood clouds, the pitch-black world of the Milky Way turned blood-red. The milky white heavenly lake was also covered by the blood clouds and turned into a sinister blood lake. The terrifying pressure caused the starry river to churn, the fluctuations shocking the heavens, as if the entire starry river was boiling. 9 beams of unparalleled divine power descended and locked onto Suyu. Suyu was not afraid at all. He stood up slowly and said calmly, "The demonic god of 6 paths, Admiral Whitebone, the demon cloud city master, Kalen, and the book deity." Boom! With a deafening thunder, the blood cloud turned into a mass of fog and entered the body of the demonic god of 6 paths. In the blood cloud, the 9 majestic figures of the gods appeared completely. Each of them was a big shot in the Star River, who could make the Star River tremble by stomping their feet. Now, they were gathered here for Suyu. The demonic god of 6 paths, the most powerful man in the realm of demons, was one of them. His dark red color was different from the other demonic gods. His eyes were cold and indifferent, and he looked down on all living beings. All these showed that he was different from the others. The demonic god of 6 paths looked at Suyu. His gaze made the calm water of the heaven lake burst into wave. The whole heaven lake trembled a bit. Suyu also felt his body was about to collapse at this moment. His gaze could definitely kill most of the creatures in the world. "Did my son feel pain when he died?" the demonic god of 6 paths asked calmly. His words sounded calm, but the killing intent in them was quite terrifying. He wanted to inflict the pain that the Central Prefecture's king had suffered on Suyu. The demonic gods who came with the demonic god of 6 paths all showed pity for Suyu. If Suyu was smart enough to tell the demonic god of 6 paths that his son died quickly, he might feel better. However, Suyu's words startled everyone. "I chased him for 7 days and 7 nights. I asked him to run all over the Jojo Cavern world and kill anyone who took him in. I made him feel despair physically and spiritually. He didn't know how painful it was to die like this." In other words, the Central Prefecture's king was tortured to death. The Demon Cloud City Master sneered. Suyu knew his death was near, so he was so scared that he started to talk nonsense? The demonic god looked at Suyu coldly. The demonic god of 6 paths looked indifferent, but his killing intent was getting stronger. This wasn't the answer he wanted to hear. He wanted to see Su Yu being frightened and trying his best to cover up his actions. Su Yu was constantly repenting and begging for his forgiveness. It was completely different from what he had imagined. "You are provoking me on purpose," the demonic god of 6 paths said calmly. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders. "I'm just not good at lying, so I accidentally told the truth." "Fine. You will pay 10 times the price for my son's death," the demonic god of 6 paths said indifferently. Then, he was about to teleport to Su Yu and kill him on the spot. Princess Yunxia had ordered him to bring back Su Yu's body or people. The demonic god of 6 paths was worried that Su Yu's body would fall into the heaven pool and be swept away. However, at this moment, a voice said, "Demonic god of 6 paths, please wait." The demonic god of 6 paths stopped teleporting and stared at the book deity. The book deity's divine death misfortune was not removed. However, it was suppressed by a force. Judging from the aura, it was the demonic god of 6 paths. The book deity looked at Su Yu calmly and said, "Didn't the demonic god of 6 paths notice that the traitors he took with him have disappeared?" Hearing that, the other demonic gods nodded their head. The Great Western Alliance had disappeared. Even the demon princes and princesses had disappeared. Su Yu was alone in the heaven pool. Based on my understanding of him, he must be playing trick. The demonic god of 6 paths must not approach the heaven pool. Otherwise you will be tricked. The book deity saw through Su Yu's plot. The demonic god of 6 paths looked at Su Yu indifferently. He didn't teleport to the heaven pool. Su Yu felt it was a pity. Then, he stared at the book deity and said, "What a haunting ghost!" If the book deity hadn't interfered, things would have gone much smoother. The demonic god of 6 paths turned around and looked at Admiral Whitebone. Admiral Whitebone turned around and looked at the Demon Cloud City Master. The Demon Cloud City Master, who was sneering, froze. He was very reluctant to go. Apparently, Su Yu was playing tricks on him. He was going to be a scapegoat. "If you don't go, you can sacrifice yourself for the Demon Emperor," Admiral Whitebone said ruthlessly. Hearing that, the Demon Cloud City Master felt a chill down his spine. He had seen the scene of sacrificing himself for the Demon Emperor. That was to be eaten alive by the giant of the bitter sea. The Demon Cloud City Master gritted his teeth and teleported. He thought to himself, "As long as I am careful, Su Yu won't be able to harm me." Sea-Watch City Master, go to hell. The Demon Cloud City Master, who was full of hatred, teleported to the top of Su Yu's head. Then, he started to attack Su Yu with a long whip. The long whip was an imitation of an emperor-based saint artifact. It flew out like a dragon and aimed at Su Yu's neck. However, when the long whip was about to reach Su Yu, a green vine flew out from the 9-jade spiritual pearl on Su Yu's arm abruptly and entangled the long whip. Oh no! The Demon Cloud City Master was shocked. Could this be Su Yu's hidden trump card? Without thinking, the Demon Cloud City Master immediately threw away the long whip and quickly teleported back. However, the moment the long whip appeared, a small golden mountain suddenly appeared above the head of the Demon Cloud City Master and pressed down with a loud rumble. "Ah!" The Demon Cloud City Master screamed in terror. The 5 elements mountain couldn't hurt him. However, it could suppress him. Then, he fell into the heaven pool immediately. Admiral Whitebone snorted coldly, "Useless!" All of a sudden, his arm exploded and turned into a hideous snake-shaped demon. It jumped forward abruptly and knocked away the 5 elements mountain. At the same time, the demon wrapped itself around the Demon Cloud City Master and started to drag him back. Su Yu was not surprised. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. "Hee hee, you are finally here." With a wicked laugh, the tree goddess showed up. The vine that had entangled the whip was split into 2. One of the vines entangled the Demon Cloud City Master, while the other entangled the snake-shaped demon that had been transformed by Admiral Whitebone's arm. The green vine shone brightly and released an amazing force. Then, it dragged both of them down. After the transformation, the tree goddess was much more powerful than before. The demon Cloud City Master was no match for her. Therefore, he was dragged down to the heaven pool directly. Ah, no. The demon Cloud City Master screamed in terror. Then, he struggled desperately and begged for mercy. Sea-Watch City Master, please show mercy. Splash. With a splash of water, the demon Cloud City Master was thrown into the heavenly lake and never came out again. What a coward! The tree goddess curled her lips. Then, she looked at Admiral Whitebone, who was also entangled, and said, "It's your turn." She wanted to use the same trick and throw him into the heavenly lake. However, when he was dragged to the surface of the lake, Admiral Whitebone snorted disdainfully, "You are still too young." Then, his arm, which had been entangled by the vine, was cut off abruptly. The tree goddess snorted, "It's still too early for that." Swish! Dozens of vines covered the sky and covered the earth, wrapping around every part of Whitebone General's body. However, when the vines were about to drag him down, Admiral Whitebone's body was cut into hundreds of pieces of minced meat. Then, each piece of minced meat turned into a hideous little snake. Hundreds of little snakes sneered at the same time, "That's why I said you are still too young. It's not that easy." The tree goddess was irritated. Then, her black hair, which was emitting black light, turned into countless fine silk threads, which entangled all the little snakes. However, the same thing happened again. The little snakes, which were entangled by the silk threads, were cut into two pieces by themselves. The tree goddess gritted her silver teeth. Her hair was like a sharp divine weapon, which kept cutting the little snakes. However, more and more little snakes appeared and became thinner and thinner. In the end, Admiral Whitebone turned into a piece of pitch-black dust. Thousands of voices came from the dust. "Ha ha ha, it's not that easy to kill me. As for you, I can kill you easily." Swoosh! A handful of dust, which carried a touch of blood-red liquid, flew toward the tree goddess. The blood-red liquid made the tree goddess's pupils shrink. Her delicate body couldn't help but tremble. The water of the bitter sea. She had fallen into a coma because of the water of the bitter sea. The dust was so fine that even one grain of it could enter her pores, and the water of the bitter sea would enter her body. This method was impossible to defend against. However, before Admiral Whitebone could feel happy, a deity-level wild beast flew toward him with a roar. Then, he opened his mouth wide and swallowed all the dust that the upper General Whitebone had turned into, leaving nothing behind. Instantly, Admiral Whitebone understood Su Yu's intention and said in panic, "Stop!" Plop! However, along with a ripple, the deity-level wild beast and Admiral Whitebone fell into the heaven pool together. The whole area fell into a dead silence. Did Admiral Whitebone die just like that? He was held in the mouth of a wild beast and jumped into the heaven pool together with the wild beast? Everyone was dumbfounded. The demon Cloud City Master was just an ordinary deity of the Holy Magic Hall. However, Admiral Whitebone, one of the top 10 generals of the demon realm, was killed just like that. The book deity's calm face became gloomy. Staring at the Star River scripture in Su Yu's hand, his face became even more gloomy. "Ha, ha, how could you come up with such an idea?" The tree goddess burst into laughter with her hands covering her belly. "You were so arrogant just now. In the blink of an eye, you were killed just like that." Su Yu shrugged his shoulders. "This is called karma comes fast." On the demon cloud, everyone looked gloomy. They thought they could complete this task easily. However, they lost a strong man like Admiral Whitebone at the beginning. Kaylin squinted her phoenix eyes. "I see. He relied on this tree goddess to drag people who approached him into the heaven pool. Humph! I will deal with this woman. The other 3 demonic gods will go and catch Su Yu. If we attack one by one, we will be defeated one by one." Kaylin saw through Su Yu's plan. As long as they could stall the tree goddess, it would be a piece of cake for the others to catch Su Yu. Chapter 1289. There's more? Kaylin's pretty eyes flickered slightly. She patted her waist with one hand and took out a flute. She gently blew into it, a melodious flute melody that could resist the soul spread out leisurely. The sound of the flute permeated every nook and cranny. When it swept past the prayer beads on Su Yu's wrist, the sound of the flute changed. Kaylin fixed her eyes on Su Yu's Buddha beads and said with a sarcastic smile, "Just as the demonic god of six paths said, there is another hidden deity. I'm guessing that it's the purple-eyed fiend celestial who betrayed you along with you." The Buddhist prayer beads shook and a figure appeared. His eyes were a strange purple. Who else could it be but the purple-eyed demonic god? "I'm sorry for interrupting your inheritance," Su Yu said. The purple-eyed demonic god chuckled. "It doesn't matter. The inheritance has been completed. As long as my body and soul perish, she will automatically ascend to become a god and become the new purple-eyed demonic god." His body exuded an aura of death that not even divine power could suppress. Su Yu glanced at it and sighed inwardly. The purple-eyed demonic god was almost at his limit. The aura of death permeated every part of his body. Su Yu was powerless against such a natural death of old age, and he couldn't even resurrect the dead. Heh. I will deal with the tree goddess. You can deal with the purple-eyed demonic god and Su Yu. Kaylin sneered as she turned into a beam of light and rushed towards the tree goddess. With a twist of her hand, she plucked a red flower from her hair and waved it lightly. The red flower turned into 10, 10 into 100, and 100 into 1,000. In an instant, the heavenly lake was filled with a sea of red flowers, surrounding her and the tree goddess. The red flowers seemed beautiful and emitted a rich fragrance. But if one looked carefully, one would notice that at the center of each flower was a mouth filled with sharp black teeth, and it was exceptionally ferocious. Nightmare soul-devouring flower. Hearing this, the tree goddess frowned and said in a deep voice, "Su Yu, be careful. I may not be able to take care of you." For the tree goddess to say such words, it could be seen that she had encountered a great crisis. Su Yu looked at the sea of flowers and felt a deep sense of danger. After all, she was the first made by Princess Yunxia's side, and her strength was not to be underestimated. The moment the tree goddess was entangled, the three gods of the Holy Magic Hall finally made their move. They were demon gods who had just been transformed and newly joined the Holy Magic Hall, but their strength was not weak, at least not inferior to the Demon Cloud City Master. The Demon Cloud City Master was the strongest demon god among the 9 gods in the Jingyu realm. "Haha, my wish has been fulfilled. I will contribute my last bit of strength to you with my broken body." The purple-eyed demonic god looked at Su Yu with a smile and turned into a beam of purple light. 10,000 years in one glance. The purple-eyed demonic god's eyes emitted intense purple light. Under the illumination of the purple light, the 3 demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall immediately felt as though they had been completely seen through and had nowhere to hide. Be it the secrets hidden in one's heart or the sorrowful past, they were all seen through by a single eye. Demon God Shaoyin, in order to become a god, you slaughtered your clansmen. In order to join the Holy Magic Hall, you ate your own wife and children. You've lost all humanity. Hundred-legged demonic god, you coveted Princess Yunxia's beauty and joined the Holy Magic Hall to get close to her. Demon God Qinshan, you actually want to use this opportunity to escape from the demon world. The purple-eyed demonic god said in a clear voice, revealing all the secrets hidden deep in the hearts of the 3. The demonic god Shaoyin was not a big deal, but the other 2 were punishable by death. Especially in front of the demonic god of 6 paths, these secrets were exposed. How could they survive? "Kill him, and you will be absolved of your sins," the demonic god of 6 paths said calmly. The 3 demonic gods calmed down a little and attacked Su Yu together. The demonic god Shaoyin used all his strength, but the hundred-legged demonic god, and the Qingshan demonic god couldn't concentrate. As a result, the three of them not only couldn't cooperate with each other, but also couldn't form an effective cooperation. The purple-eyed demonic god's strength was far inferior to any of the three, but he was able to deal with the three of them with ease. In addition, the purple-eyed demonic god kept revealing the secrets hidden in their hearts, one after another, which made them panic. In the end, even the demonic god Shaoyin was confused. Su Yu was dumbfounded. He wasn't strong, but with his eyes that could detect the mysteries of the world, he could greatly reduce the enemy's strength without wasting a single soldier. Thinking about it carefully, if Su Yu also encountered an enemy who could see through his secrets at a glance, it would be very tricky indeed. With a flash, Su Yu took out the Star River scripture and sprayed a large amount of divine blood on the scripture. Instantly, a deity-level wild beast was released to assist the purple-eyed demonic god. However, this wasn't the end. Su Yu's divine blood seemed to be inexhaustible. He kept using it to release one deity-level wild beast after another. When all 9 wild beasts were released, the Star River scripture, which the book deity had spent hundreds of years to create, was suddenly emptied. The 9 deity-level wild beasts were far inferior to the demonic god. However, when they cooperated with the purple-eyed demonic god, they gained the upper hand and suppressed the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall. What made the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall even more shocked and angry was that the 9 deities of the Holy Magic Hall used the same trick to entangle them and drag them into the Star River. At this time, the demonic god of 6 paths, who had been looking on coldly, said indifferently, "The tree goddess, the purple-eyed demonic god, and 9 deity-level wild beasts. That's all you have prepared, right?" When he finished speaking, the demonic god of 6 paths finally moved. His magnificent figure teleported and landed in the center of the 9 wild beasts. Then, he raised his finger and pointed at one of the deity-level wild beasts. Bang! With a muffled sound, the deity-level wild beast was smashed into pieces abruptly before it could even scream. The other 8 deity-level wild beasts trembled and fled in all directions in fear. None of their ferocious auras remained. The demonic god of 6 paths raised his finger and swept it across the wild beast. Every time he pointed at a deity-level wild beast, the wild beast exploded and died. This was not a battle at all. It was a one-sided massacre. In the blink of an eye, the 9 deity-level wild beasts were all killed. The pressure on the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall was greatly reduced. They roared and were about to rush back. However, right at this moment, a small 5-colored mountain suddenly came crashing down. With a loud noise, the 3 demonic deities who had just rushed up were smashed down. Their bodies were less than 3 feet away from the surface of the lake. When the 3 demonic deities were about to be smashed into the heavenly lake, the demonic god of 6 paths teleported over indifferently and grabbed the 5 elements mountain in the air. A shocking scene happened. The 5 elements mountain, which was falling rapidly, was grabbed by the 6 demonic deities with one hand. The 5 elements mountain, which could even suppress deities, was stopped by the demonic god of 6 paths. The 3 demonic deities felt relieved and were about to run away in fear. However, the corners of Su Yu's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. "Do you think that someone can save you?" A magnificent colorful light beam shot out from the bottom of the 5 elements mountain abruptly, which smashed the 3 demonic deities into the heavenly lake. With a loud sound of waves, the 3 demonic deities were swallowed before they could even make a bubble. The 3 demonic deities of the Holy Magic Hall had been killed. The demonic god of 6 paths grabbed the 5 elements mountain with his 5 fingers and stared at Su Yu coldly. "You really deserve to die." "Same to you," Su Yu said calmly. "Die." The demonic god of 6 paths pointed his finger at Su Yu. He wanted to kill Su Yu as he had done to the 9 deity-level wild beasts. At this critical moment, a purple light flashed around Su Yu's body. The purple-eyed demonic god grabbed Su Yu and teleported away. Wherever Su Yu stood, the water of the heavenly lake under his feet rippled violently. Be careful! That is the famous unique skill of the demonic god of six paths, the death ripple. It can shatter the enemy instantly with the vibration of divine power. It is invisible and dangerous. The purple light in the purple-eyed demonic god's eyes became brighter, and the death aura around him became more and more intense. Suyu nodded his head slowly and said, "Thank you very much." The purple-eyed demonic god remained calm. He believed that Suyu would be able to survive this crisis. He didn't fabricate the source of chaos. Humph! The demonic god of six paths snorted coldly. Then, he teleported with an extremely powerful aura. As soon as he appeared, the sky and earth roared. He was going to kill Suyu at a close distance with his magnificent body. At the same time, the space around them was locked. When the purple-eyed demonic god tried to teleport again with Suyu, he lost the opportunity. "I will stop him," the purple-eyed demonic god shouted. However, as soon as he moved, his chest was shattered by the demonic god of six paths. Then, he was blown out of the heavenly lake. Nobody could stop him anymore. Then, the demonic god of six paths patted Suyu's head abruptly and said coldly, "Die. You don't have any backup plan." However, at that moment, Suyu's lips curled into a mocking smile. "I still have many ways to deal with you." "What?" The demonic god of six paths glanced at Suyu. There was no aura of a powerful deity in Suyu's portable abode. How could he have any backup plan? Besides, there was no way that a deity could hide in this place. "Come out!" Suyu shouted in a low voice as he lifted his feet abruptly. At this moment, the demonic god of six paths discovered that a transparent silk thread was wrapped around Suyu's feet. The other end of the silk thread was in the water. The demonic god of six paths was surprised. Suyu was not devoured by the silk thread? Normally, anything that entered the heavenly lake would be devoured by the demonic god. But why is this silk thread? Oh no! The demonic god of six paths suddenly realized where Suyu's trump card was. The demonic god of six paths roared in a low voice and teleported away immediately. However, it was too late. When Suyu flew away, the silk thread wrapped around his feet brought three figures out of the heavenly lake. They were holding a fishing rod tightly, and the other end of the fishing rod was wrapped around Suyu's feet. Suyu took all three of them out of the heavenly lake. The demonic god of six paths was caught unprepared by the ambush, which was like a heavenly soldier descending from the sky. Puff, clang, buzz. The three of them launched their attacks at the demonic god of six paths, who was caught off guard. The bracelet of the second princess hit the demonic god of six paths' body and knocked him back with a buzzing sound. The sword of the sixth princess hit the demonic god of six paths' neck. However, the sword was knocked back as if it had hit an emperor-based saint artifact. However, the first prince's demonic sword penetrated the demonic god of six paths' chest and pierced through his demonic heart precisely. Endless demonic energy gushed out from the demonic heart of the demonic god of six paths. Even the demonic god had weaknesses. The demonic heart was one of them. "I made it." The three of them couldn't believe that they had successfully injured the demonic god of six paths. However, they had only injured him. "Get lost!" The demonic god of six paths roared. The first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were knocked back and fell into the Star River. Suyu was quick to react. He swung his fishing rod and caught all three of them. When the three of them looked at the demonic god of six paths, their hearts sank to the bottom. The demonic god of six paths clenched his fist and pulled out a broken heart from his chest. Then, he swallowed it. Then, a new heart grew in the place where the heart had been. The wound also healed quickly. It was a fatal blow, but the demonic god of six paths was not injured at all. "The undying demonic heart," the first prince said seriously. Chapter 1290. The undying demon heart was a forbidden technique that only the previous demon emperors had the opportunity to cultivate. He could devour the demon hearts of demon gods of the same level as him and use them as a reserve. Once his own demon heart was destroyed, he could immediately replace it. This was equivalent to robbing the lives of other fiend celestials to die for him. The demonic god of six paths looked at the first prince coldly and said, "You've improved. You can even destroy one of my demonic hearts." The eldest prince did not feel that this was a compliment. Then, the demonic god of six paths looked at Su Yu and said with a cold smile, "I have to admit that you are quite powerful for tricking me." He had thought that the tree goddess would be a backup plan, but the purple-eyed demon god had popped out. Then, 9 divine-level wild beasts had appeared. When they all thought Su Yu had used all his trump cards, Su Yu revealed his trump card, which was specially prepared for the demonic god of six paths. He actually indulged in the wildest fantasies. No one expected that there were 3 absolute experts hidden under the heavenly pond. The Great Prince and the Sixth Princess. These two were the top powerhouses in the Devil Realm, especially the Great Prince, a powerhouse who was about to inherit the throne. If the demonic god of six paths hadn't secretly cultivated the immortal demon heart, he would have died here today. It's a pity that I failed. Su Yu sighed deeply. It was not easy to kill the demonic god of six paths. However, he was not too disappointed. If the demonic god of six paths had died so easily, he would have been surprised. "Keep him occupied," Su Yu ordered. The first prince and his 2 companions had determined looks on their faces. Now that things had come to this, even if Su Yu did not say anything, they could only fight to the death. Although, it was still likely to be a one-sided massacre. "Attack!" The eldest imperial prince shouted in a low voice and charged forward with his sword in hand. He was already prepared to die. The second princess and the sixth princess also gritted their teeth and quickly teleported over. "My disciples have grown up," the demonic god of six paths said with a faint smile, "so it's time for you to repay me. You should follow me back to the realm of devils." 6 Dao Tianluan. 6 blood-red eyes appeared behind the demonic god of six paths. Every single one of them contained extreme power. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 6 eyes suddenly shot out 6 pillars of light that were as black as ink, sweeping toward the eldest prince and the others. "Be careful, it's the divine path of the demonic god of six paths." The first prince's expression was extremely serious. He held his sword horizontally in front of his chest to block one of the rays of light. Clang, however, the pitch-black ray of light ignored tangible objects and pierced through the demon sword, piercing through the first prince's chest. The sixth princess and the second princess were the same. It was unknown what that pitch-black ray of light was, but it could not be blocked by any material object. No matter how strong one's strength was, no matter how powerful one's magic treasure was, once the 6 paths of natural harmony appeared, all living beings would perish. The 3 all-powerful princes and princesses had fallen just like that. A bitter smile finally bloomed on the corner of the 6th princess's mouth. Was this the end? He did not see any hope of survival. She had trusted Su Yu too much. His eyes gradually closed and slowly sank into darkness. But right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded out by his ear. After the voice appeared, it was like a stabilizing needle, making the heart of the 6th princess suddenly calm down. "Life domain." An emerald halo radiated from Su Yu, shrouding the first prince, the second princess, and the 6th princess. They, who were about to die, recovered in an instant. In particular, the first prince, whose demonic heart had been shattered, was now alive and well. The 3 of them were stunned on the spot, deeply shocked. "What are you waiting for? He has the undying demonic heart, and I have the undying domain. He can't kill you within 10 minutes, but you can kill him." How could there be such a terrifying domain? Not only were the 3 princes and princesses shocked, but the demonic god of 6 paths also witnessed the resurrection of the 3 princes and princesses. For the first time, his indifferent face was filled with shock. He had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, but this was the first time he had heard of a special domain that could bring people back to life. After recovering from their shock, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess looked at each other in surprise and confusion. Then, they charged forward again. 6 paths of natural harmony. The demonic god of 6 paths shouted loudly. 6 demonic eyes appeared behind him, shooting out black rays that could penetrate everything in the world. Without any suspense, the 3 princes and princesses were pierced through again in their vital parts. In particular, the first prince lost his head, but it was restored in the blink of an eye. The destroyed demonic hearts of the second princess and the sixth princess were also restored in an instant. Such a nature-defying domain shocked and excited them. If Suyu had such a domain, he wouldn't be afraid of a battle. The sixth princess's heart was rekindled with hope. Maybe Suyu really had the confidence to kill the demonic god of 6 paths. The 3 princes and princesses were overjoyed. They teleported forward to kill the demonic god of 6 paths, regardless of the horrible means of the demonic god of 6 paths. No matter how the demonic god of 6 paths attacked them or how badly they were injured, they fought desperately as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The first prince's head was shattered by the demonic god of 6 paths' palm. However, the first prince didn't seem to notice it. He waved the demonic sword in his hand and destroyed the demonic heart of the demonic god of 6 paths again. The second princess's body was shattered, but her remaining hand still grabbed the bracelet and bombarded the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. The sixth princess's demonic heart was destroyed one after another. However, under the protection of the immortal realm, she didn't feel death at all. She took the opportunity to cut off half of the demonic god of 6 paths' head. In the past, the demonic god of 6 paths could kill them easily with every move. However, now, he was roaring in anger as he was killed dozens of times by them. The demonic god of 6 paths had never fought such a stupid battle before. He had killed them hundreds of times, but they didn't die. Instead, they continued to hurt him fearlessly. His demonic heart had been crushed 10 times. His head was also cut off in half. If this went on, he might really be killed. He wanted to kill Suyu first. However, Suyu was also under the protection of the immortal realm. The black light of the demonic god of 6 paths recovered immediately after killing Suyu. Get lost! The demonic god of 6 paths was furious. For many years, he had rarely been angry. On the other hand, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were fighting passionately. Ha ha ha! This is awesome! I never thought I would fight the demonic god of 6 paths in this way. The second princess was also excited. Come on! We might really be able to kill the demonic god of 6 paths. The sixth princess was even more eager to kill them. Interesting. This is so interesting. He can resurrect infinitely and kill an invincible strong man. The weird battle was still going on. A piece of ancient black ice was lying quietly in Suyu's palm. The ice was slowly being melted by Suyu's divine strength. Visible to the naked eye, there was a thumb-sized insect frozen in the primordial profound ice. Although the bug was small, it gave off a terrifying aura. The dead soul bug was a horrible spiritual bug that devoured the souls of creatures in ancient times. Moreover, this was not an ordinary dead soul bug. It was a bug that failed to cross the ordeal to become a medium deity. Suyu had experienced its dreadfulness. It was an existence that caused the divine 9-dragon cauldron to warn him urgently. Suyu had experienced many soul attacks. Only that time, the divine 9-dragon cauldron warned him the most. The 3 princes were still fighting the demonic god of 6 paths. Suyu was concentrating on melting the ancient black ice. Both sides were racing against time to seize the opportunity. Time passed bit by bit. Although the tree goddess wanted to help Suyu very much, she was still entangled by Kalin. Everything depended on whether Suyu could refine the ancient black ice in advance. However, there were still 2 people on the field who were not restrained. They were the divine souls of the Book Deity and Luo Huan. With the wisdom of the Book Deity, he grasped this most critical moment very keenly. It seemed Su Yu was preparing a big move that could decide the fate of the world. The Book Deity smiled faintly. With me here, I'm afraid your plan will fail. The tree goddess hated this B***starred. Why does he always make trouble at the most critical moment? Su Yu's killing intent was also very strong. The Book Deity had hindered him many times and put him in great danger several times. Now it was the critical moment to fight against the demonic god of 6 paths. Heh. Although I can't kill you in your realm, I can easily affect your refining of the ancient black ice. The Book Deity smiled and took out a golden scripture. It was a demonic scripture that could disturb people's minds. Opening the scripture, the Book Deity read it on the spot with a sarcastic smile. As soon as he read it, Su Yu felt upset and his divine power was unstable. The speed of refining the ancient black ice slowed down suddenly. The time limit of the realm of life was almost up. The Book Deity smiled calmly and read faster. The source of all evils, the demon's heart is in chaos, the heart of heaven is not shaken, destroy your mother. Suddenly, a roar came. At the same time, a strand of extremely powerful divine power crossed the Star River and hit the Book Deity. The Book Deity was caught off guard. He was hit by the divine power and rolled several times. The demonic scripture in his hand disappeared. His neat clothes were messy, his hair was scattered all over the ground, and his nose and mouth were full of blood. His appearance was as miserable as one could imagine. Who is it? The Book Deity turned his head and looked out of the Star River. Swish! A figure of a woman teleported from the depths of the Star River, revealing a cold and angry face. Xing Deity. The Book Deity was shocked. He never expected the Xing Deity to be here. You are worse than an animal. You are a scourge in the Eastern Alliance, and you are still a scourge in the Western Alliance. Today, this god will split open your head and see if it's filled with shit or not. The Book Deity was so scared that he turned around and ran away, ignoring Su Yu. How could he deal with a powerful god like the Xing Deity? The Xing Deity looked at Su Yu and found that he was looking at her in agreement. She couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The series of vulgarities just now was really not in line with her usual elegant image. Ahem. I just came back because I was worried. Leave the Book Deity to me. This time, he has no way to escape. The Xing Deity said and immediately chased after the Book Deity. She and the Sword Deity felt guilty to Su Yu and the Eastern Alliance, so they turned back. Unexpectedly, what made her furious was that the shameless Book Deity actually helped the demons to deal with Su Yu, which really drove her crazy. Without any obstacles, Su Yu focused on refining the ancient black ice. Soon after, the last trace of ice on the dead soul worm dissipated. An extremely tyrannical, terrifying, and cryptic aura suddenly rushed out. Su Yu's eyes flashed and he shouted, "Come back!" Chapter 1291. Hearing that, the 3 princes and princesses, the purple-eyed demonic god, and the tree goddess retreated to Su Yu's side. The demonic god of 6 paths and Kaelin noticed the dead soul worm in Su Yu's palm. Kaelin frowned and said, "That worm is a bit weird." Somehow, she sensed a bit of danger from the worm. The demonic god of 6 paths frowned slightly and said, "Step back." The demonic god of 6 paths' intuition told him that the worm was very dangerous. So, he teleported away without hesitation. Su Yu stared at the dead soul worm in his palm and took a breath. Then, he grabbed a strand of vitality and injected it into the worm's body. Then, he shouted in a low voice, "You may feel a bit painful now. Just bear with it." Then, Su Yu clenched his fist and used all of his strength to pinch the bug. The dead soul worm was stimulated. Then, the last strand of consciousness in its body was awakened. Boom! A strand of horrible aura that could shake the entire Star River was awakened. The aura was so powerful that no other creature could rival it except for the giant of the bitter sea. The eyes of the dead soul worm, which had been closed for many years, opened abruptly. Then, a pair of green eyes appeared. Its eyeballs moved slightly and glanced at Suyu, the three princes and princesses, the tree goddess, the purple-eyed demonic god, Cauldron, and finally the demonic god of 6 paths. That gaze was calm and without ripples, like the Buddhist Dharma in the temple, looking down indifferently. Even when it glanced at the demonic god of 6 paths, its eyes were still calm. It seemed all creatures, including the demonic god of 6 paths, were just a group of ants in its eyes. It was this group of ants that awakened the last strand of consciousness of the demonic god of 6 paths. After being glanced at by the dead soul worm, not only Suyu and the others, but also the demonic god of 6 paths, was frightened for the first time. This is a medium deity. A medium deity was also a deity. However, a medium deity like the demonic god of 6 paths and the demonic god of 6 paths were like two different creatures. The demonic god of 6 paths couldn't help but tremble. After being glanced at by the demonic god of 6 paths, Cauldron felt a chill all over her body. The fear of death overwhelmed her. She couldn't help but tremble. Her body became extremely stiff and she couldn't move. It was only when she bit the tip of her tongue to stimulate herself to suppress her emotions that she finally moved her feet and teleported away. It was too terrifying. Except for the giant of the bitter sea, she had never felt such a terrifying aura from any other creature. Even the demonic god of 6 paths was no match for him. "Don't move," the demonic god of 6 paths said suddenly. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Even when he was trying to persuade Cauldron, he kept staring at the dead soul worm and dared not move. However, Cauldron was already intimidated by the dead soul worm's aura, so she subconsciously teleported away. At this moment, the eyes of the dead soul worm, which had always been calm, slowly turned to look at Cauldron, who was running away. A cruel and evil grin appeared in his eyes. Bang! The dead soul worm spread its wings, and Suyu's palm, which was holding onto it, turned into dust. It stared at Cauldron, opened its mouth, and inhaled coldly. An unforgettable scene appeared. The Milky Way was flowing backwards. No, the entire Milky Way was flowing backwards. The water of the Star River, the broken cavern worlds in the Star River, the broken dust, and countless wild beasts were all sucked into its seemingly small mouth. At the end of the Milky Way, a figure who was trying his best to teleport appeared clearly. It was Cauldron. She had clearly teleported hundreds of millions of miles away, but the dead soul worm had actually sucked her back together with the Star River world. Although she was still fearfully teleporting forward, she was still sucked back, and in the blink of an eye, she was in front of the dead soul worm's mouth. "Demonic god of 6 paths, save me!" Cauldron screamed in terror. However, the demonic god of 6 paths remained motionless, and his eyes were filled with fear. Whoosh! The next moment, Cauldron was swallowed by the dead soul worm. What was even more peculiar was that the starry sky world that had just been swept away suddenly returned to its original state, as if it had never been devoured in the first place. The entire process was like an illusion. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that all the living beings in the Milky Way world that had just flowed in reverse had lost something. Soul. Both the wild beasts hiding in the Milky Way and Cauldron's body floating in the distance had lost their souls. What had just happened was not an illusion. The dead soul worm had just absorbed the souls of this Milky Way world. Suyu, the prince and princess, the purple-eyed demonic god, the tree goddess, and even the demonic god of 6 paths were all staring at this horrifying scene in a daze. Is this the dead soul worm that had failed to cross the tribulation? Moreover, it only had a trace of consciousness left. After swallowing Cauldron, the dead soul worm's body became a little bit dimmer. After all, it was just a broken body, and it barely survived with the help of Suyu's vitality. It had been dead for a long time, and its vitality was fading rapidly. Therefore, it could only exist in this world for a short time. However, even a short time was enough for it to survive. Turned around and looked at the demonic god of six paths. After all, his soul was the most powerful among all of them, and he was the one who attracted the dead soul worm's attention the most. The demonic god of six paths was shocked. Then, he shouted in a serious voice, "I know you are still conscious. However, it wasn't me who woke you up, but the person behind you." Hearing that, the dead soul worm turned around and stared at Suyu. At this moment, Suyu's soul trembled violently, and the divine nine-dragon cauldron in his mind kept vibrating violently to warn him. In this way, Suyu managed to suppress his trembling soul. Suyu was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. What a horrible dead soul worm! When Suyu was extremely vigilant, the dead soul worm didn't attack Suyu after giving him a cold look. Instead, it stared at the demonic god of six paths again and uttered a strange, obscure sound. Suyu, who was proficient in many living creatures' languages, was the only one who could understand what the dead soul worm was saying. It was the language of the insect race, and it said, "Don't rush. Take your time." After uttering in a low voice, the dead soul worm flew slowly toward the demonic god of six paths. However, the demonic god of six paths acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy, and he chose to attack first. Natural family of the six paths. 6 eyes appeared behind him, which shot out 6 beams of black light that could penetrate everything in the world. Nothing tangible could resist it. However, when the black light hit the dead soul worm, it was absorbed by the dead soul worm, and nothing was left. Then, the dead soul worm uttered a low voice and sneered, "Any attack is useless against me." This was because the dead soul worm was also a non-tangible existence. In other words, it was a soul. It was born with a soul, but no physical form. The demonic god of six paths was greatly shocked. Then, he took out a shabby, ancient, blood-stained robe and shook it in the air. The robe fluttered in the wind, and an amazing aura burst out from it. The aura of the robe surpassed all fairy artifacts. It was an imitation of an emperor-based saint artifact. The 9 Emperor Shroud. The first prince shouted in surprise. Chapter 1292. I can't believe the demonic god of six paths has hidden this item. The emperor who opened up the galaxy? Suyu was secretly surprised. The demonic dimension's knowledge of the world's secrets was far greater than that of the outside world. Chila, the demonic god of six paths, instilled his divine power into it and threw it out. Suddenly, the 9 Emperor Shroud expanded infinitely and turned into 1,000,000 square meters, enveloping the dead soul worm along with a galaxy. With a sizzling sound, everything wrapped in it melted into a pool of blood, dripping down the shroud. As the shroud continued to shrink, it finally shrunk back to its original form. The divine clothes were completely silent. Presumably, the dead soul worm had also been killed. The demonic god of six paths looked a bit relaxed. Suddenly Shin-E squirmed. From under the divine clothes, a bug slowly crawled out. It was bathed in blood. If it wasn't the dead soul bug, then who could it be? The demonic god of six paths was shocked. He didn't even give up the divine robe and retreated quickly. The dead soul worm let out a playful grin and whispered in insect language, "It's over." Chi, the dead soul worm, opened its mouth and absorbed the soul of the demonic god of six paths. In an instant, a magnificent soul was forcibly removed from the body of the demonic god of six paths. The demonic god of six paths was shocked and shouted, "Immortal demon heart!" Puff, his chest exploded, and his devil heart flew out on its own to block his divine soul before exploding. After the explosion, a lifeless divine soul appeared. This was the true owner of the devil heart. Whoosh, the sluggish soul of the demonic god of six paths was devoured, and his soul returned to his body. But before he could escape, the sucking force of the dead soul worm came again. The demonic heart that the demonic god of six paths had just condensed was swallowed again. The consciousness of the dead soul worm leaked out a tyrannical aura. It was clearly enraged, and its soul-devouring power increased exponentially. The demonic heart of the demonic god of six paths was immediately devoured. From the perspective of Su Yu and the others, they saw the demonic god of six paths was motionless. Then, one demonic heart after another flew out of his chest. In the blink of an eye, more than 30 demon hearts flew out. In addition to the 10 that the first prince had destroyed, he now had a total of 40 demon hearts. He actually killed so many fiend celestials and used their fiend celestial hearts to cultivate the immemorial fiend celestial heart? The second princess said in surprise, "That's impossible. So many demons have died. Why didn't they notice?" The sixth princess was also very surprised, but she said calmly, "It's very easy to understand. Many deities joined the holy magic hall and then disappeared. It's very likely that they were taken by the demonic god of six paths to practice. No one dared to inquire about the mysteries of the holy magic hall. But I'm almost at my limit," the sixth princess said. Over the years, after joining the holy magic hall, there were only more than 50 gods who had never shown up again. Once the demonic heart was used up, it would be the demonic god of six paths' turn to have his own demonic heart devoured. Once his demonic heart died, his soul would not be spared. However, the glow of the dead soul worm was very dim, and it seemed like it would not last for long. However, judging from the situation, it was more likely that the demonic god of six paths would collapse first. The demonic god of six paths' expression changed drastically. The appearance of the dead soul worms put him on the verge of death. If this continued, he would really die here. The demonic god of six paths' eyes flickered with regret. He shouted and took out the 9 broken golden wooden swords. The 3 princes and princesses were shocked when they saw the sword. "Are these swords made of the golden flames forbidden wood?" Even Su Yu was surprised. Didn't they say that only a piece of the golden flames forbidden wood was found, and it was used to forge 9 magic treasures to restrain the giant of the bitter sea? Why were there 9 broken swords? The first prince's eyes lit up. It turns out the rumor is true. It is said that when the golden flames forbidden wood was dug out, a set of 9 swords was hidden in the heart of the tree. I thought it was just a legend. I didn't expect it to be true. The demonic god of six paths shouted as he took out the 9 broken swords made of the golden flames forbidden wood, Cosmos sword formation. Sizzle! Instantly, the 9 broken swords formed a sword formation and landed near the dead soul worm. The 3 princes and princesses looked calm, but Su Yu was shocked. Cosmos sword formation? The 6th princess was surprised. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong with the Cosmos sword formation, the secret sword formation of the royal family of the demon dimension? This was the first time that she had seen Su Yu so surprised. When Su Yu saw the 9 broken swords, he had a sense of déjà vu. When the demonic god of six paths shouted the Cosmos sword formation, Su Yu was completely shocked. Wasn't that the Cosmos sword formation, the second part of the 9 suns Cosmos sword formation? Back then, he only got the first part of the 9 suns sword formation, which used the heavenly orchid silver bamboo as the body of the sword. It was a pity that he had never found the second part of the Cosmos sword formation. Hearing the 6th princess's explanation, Su Yu was quite surprised. The Cosmos sword formation was a secret technique of the royal family of the demon dimension? Su Yu suddenly remembered that Qian Jun was surprised when he performed the 9 suns sword formation and found Su Yu's sword formation a little familiar. Now, Qian Jun also thought Su Yu's 9 suns sword formation was similar to the Cosmos sword formation of the royal family of the demon dimension. "Have you mastered this sword formation?" Su Yu asked. The 3 princes and princesses were stunned and nodded. Su Yu was ecstatic. He had searched far and wide for it, but now he had found it by chance. He fixed his eyes on the cosmos sword formation performed by the demonic god of six paths. After the cosmos sword formation appeared, 4 swords flew in the sky, 4 circled around the earth, and the last one guarded in the center. That was the name of the sword formation, Cosmos. Finally, the indifferent eyes of the dead soul worm changed slightly. Then, with a sharp scream, it pounced on the demonic god of six paths. Cut! The demonic god of six paths shouted in a low voice. The 4 swords in the sky and the 4 swords on the earth pierced toward the dead soul worm. When the 8 swords of heaven and earth combined into one, an unprecedented sword aura burst out. The sword aura seemed to be able to split the sky and earth and destroy the chaos. When the sword aura burst out, Su Yu and the others, who were far away from the sword formation, also felt a sharp pain all over their bodies. The combination of heaven and earth, the sword aura that could split the sky, was the mystery of the cosmos sword formation. The more powerful the body of the sword was, the more horrible the sword aura would be when the 9 swords combined into one. Boom! When the 9 swords combined into one, a golden sword aura swept across the starry sky as if it was going to break the chaos and create a new world. The peerless brilliance couldn't be described by words. With a blood-curdling screech, the dead soul worm's soul body actually lost a small part of its wings. This was a medium deity who had failed to pass the ordeal. The power of the cosmos sword formation shocked Su Yu and made him extremely excited. However, after this sword attack, the 9 broken swords of the golden flames forbidden wood dimmed quickly and turned into dust. Although the cosmos sword formation was powerful, it did great damage to the body of the sword. Su Yu instantly understood the 9 suns sword formation and the cosmos sword formation. The former was not powerful enough, but it could last for a long time. The latter was powerful, but it could only be used explosively and couldn't last for a long time. Su Yu didn't know how powerful the combination of the 2 sword formations would be. Chapter 1293. Squeak, the dead soul worm, whose wings had been cut off, did not die. It screamed horribly. Although no one could understand its language, everyone knew that the dead soul worm was completely irritated. After a loud and sharp scream, the dead soul worm emitted a red light, which made it look like a bloodworm. As the red light flashed, the demonic god of six paths covered his chest in pain. Another demon heart was destroyed. At this time, a blood-red shadow pierced through the chest of the demonic god of six paths intermittently. Then, the demonic god of six paths groaned in pain again. This time, his hand covering his chest was also pierced through. Another demon heart was destroyed. Another shadow pierced through the chest of the demonic god of six paths. Then, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, one after another, the blood-red shadows pierced through the chest of the demonic god of six paths. In just 10 breaths, 10 blood-red shadows pierced through the chest of the demonic god of six paths. The demonic god of six paths had no power to resist. He could only watch his heart being destroyed one by one, until his own demon heart was left, which was a dark red heart that was much brighter than ordinary demon hearts. When the dead soul worm pierced through the heart, it did not break immediately. Instead, it kept releasing divine energy. He had never suffered such a serious injury before. Squeak! The dead soul worm shrieked, wanting to launch its final attack, but its red body gradually began to burn, dimming and becoming transparent. Its life had come to an end. Even so, the dead soul worm still turned into a broken line and went straight to the demonic god of six paths. As it slowed down, the light became dimmer and dimmer. Finally, with a bang, it turned into a spark and collapsed 10 meters away from the chest of the demonic god of six paths. The forehead of the demonic god of six paths was full of cold sweat. If he had died a little later, he would have died here today. Bang! Su Yu's life domain finally came to an end. Everyone had lost the life-saving charm of the immortal body. However, although the demonic god of six paths had been seriously injured, he could still kill all of them once. The demonic god of six paths no longer had any indifference on his face. He stared at Su Yu with infinite killing intent. It was too dangerous. This person, Su Yu, was indeed too dangerous, much more dangerous than what Princess Yunxia had expected. He had to die. The first prince could be spared for now, and the second princess and the sixth princess could also be spared for now. The demonic god of six paths had a hunch that Su Yu would be a great threat to the demon dimension in the future. Shua, the dark red body of the demonic god of six paths, flashed and teleported to the front of Su Yu's chest. Then, his monstrous divine strength pressed against Su Yu with an unshakable momentum. This was a peerless killing intent that he had used all of his strength. The first prince swung his demonic sword. The second princess and the sixth princess' expressions changed drastically. They tried their best to block this attack. Scram! His roar was like rolling thunder, sending the three of them flying. The killing intent of the demonic god of six paths was unprecedentedly firm. At this moment, no one could stop him. As for Su Yu, he had almost used up all his trump cards. He had no strength left to fight against the powerful demonic god of six paths. However, at this moment of life and death, the purple-eyed demonic god, who had been silent all this while, suddenly shot out a dazzling purple light from his eyes. The purple light pierced through the dark starry sky, passing through the endless heavens and earth. The surface of his body was burning with a layer of purple flames. "He's burning his divine Tao," the eldest prince exclaimed. The divine Tao was the foundation for a deity to become a deity. Burning the divine Tao was equivalent to destroying one's divine position. Although it could be extremely powerful, a deity would never use it unless he was about to die. "Heaven and earth as a prison," the purple-eyed demonic god shouted in a low voice. Two beams of purple light shot out from his eyes and disappeared into the boundless sea. It seemed that they had touched something invisible. When the light was reflected back, it carried a vague force of the heavenly law. Burning the divine Tao was equivalent to giving up one's divine position, which would inevitably lead to the arrival of the heavenly law. When the heaven and earth as a prison fell, the reflected purple light was divided into 100 parts and intertwined to form a purple cage, which trapped the demonic god of six paths in the air. "You are just a small deity. How dare you try to trap me by burning your divine Tao?" The demonic god of six paths shouted as he grasped the purple light with both hands and tried to break it open. The purple cage was shaking. It seemed that it was about to be shaken off. The purple flames on the purple-eyed demonic god's body became more and more intense. He turned around and looked at Su Yu. "This is all I can do for you. Su Yu, treat my apprentice well." After saying that, he turned around resolutely and disappeared into the heaven lake with the cage. "No!" The demonic god of six paths sensed his intention and roared furiously. He isolated the cage and shattered the body of the purple-eyed demonic god. However, the purple-eyed demonic god had already disappeared into the heaven lake. A terrifying devouring force engulfed the cage, which was closely connected to the demonic god of six paths. The demonic god of six paths roared unwillingly, "No! I don't want to die." As the cage disappeared into the heaven lake, the sound of the demonic god of six paths stopped abruptly. Plop! The first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess collapsed on the ground as if their bodies had been sucked dry. From the appearance of the demonic god of six paths, to the fight with him, to the attack of the dead soul worm, to the sacrifice of the purple-eyed demonic god and the demonic god of six paths, everything that had happened in the past was like a dream. Standing by the heaven lake, Su Yu bowed deeply to the demonic god of six paths. "Have a safe journey. I will take care of your apprentice for you." Without the sacrifice of the purple-eyed demonic god, they would all have been killed today. Su Yu wanted the purple-eyed demonic god to enjoy his old age. Unexpectedly, he took the demonic god of six paths away. The sixth princess stared at Su Yu's lonely and sorrowful back. The relief and excitement of eliminating the demonic god of 6 paths disappeared. She pursed her lips, came up behind Su Yu, and said softly, "The purple-eyed demonic god was not famous in his life, but he killed the first demonic god of the demonic dimension. In his heart, he was actually very happy. Compared to passing away in a mediocre manner, I think he would rather die a heroic death." Su Yu nodded slightly, looked back at her, and said, "Thank you. When will there be no more sacrifices?" Su Yu looked at the vast world. The 6th princess said, "Unless one transcends the world and becomes the creator of the world, he will always be a speck of dust in the world, at the mercy of fate." Su Yu looked at the world thoughtfully. The demonic god of 6 paths was gone, but Su Yu couldn't relax. Because there was still an existence far more powerful than the demonic god of 6 paths. The first demon emperor. He was the most horrifying existence in the Xing River. One day, the fate of all creatures would be destroyed and become nutrients for him to become a medium god. The demonic dimension, without you, how peaceful would the Xing River be? Su Yu's eyes were cold. Whether it was the Zhenlong continent, the Jiuzhou world, the Eastern Alliance, the world of divine remains, or the Western Alliance, all misfortunes and tragedies were related to the demonic dimension. As long as the first demon emperor was alive, the Xing River would not be peaceful. Su Yu's eyes were shining with determination. He had found what he wanted to do. He wanted to create a tomorrow and a future for himself and the creatures of the Xing River. However, before that, some people and things had to be settled. Book deity, you hid in the demonic dimension, and I couldn't do anything to you. Now that you have come out, let's write off all our grievances. Su Yu's eyes were cold. If the Xing deity hadn't come back in time, Su Yu wouldn't have had the chance to release the dead soul worm. The book deity wasn't strong, but he was extremely good at seizing opportunities. The damage he caused was no less than any other deity. If he was given a chance, Su Yu had no doubt that the damage he would cause would be comparable to the demonic god of 6 paths. The 6th princess frowned. The book deity is cunning. Master has forced him into a dead end many times, but he can always use the book as a substitute to escape. If we are not fully prepared, I am afraid it will be difficult to kill him completely. Su Yu's eyes were cold. He has no chance to escape again. I have already understood why he can escape every time. The first time he used the book as a substitute, the second time, and the third time. No matter how stupid Su Yu was, he could still detect the clues. Let's go. Catch up with the Xing deity. It's time to fight the book deity to the death. Su Yu shouted. Swish. A group of people quickly broke through the air and chased in the direction of the Xing deity. What they didn't know was that after they left, a bubble suddenly popped up in the middle of the heavenly lake. A black pillar that was 100,000 feet long emerged from the heavenly lake in an unremarkable way. If one looked closely, they would discover that the pillar was actually a single hair. Half a day later, in the distant sky, the Xing deity guarded the entrance of a dead cavern world. She said coldly, "Book deity, there is no need to hide anymore. You have done all kinds of evil, you deserve this day." In the cavern world, there was dead silence, and the book deity did not respond. However, with her senses, the Xing deity could feel the breath of the book deity and the fluctuations of his divine power. After hesitating for a moment, the Xing deity gritted her teeth and decided to step into the cavern world. "Don't go in." At this moment, Su Yu's loud voice came from the end of the world. The Xing deity was stunned and saw Su Yu leading the 3 princes and princesses in a hurry. Seeing that they were still alive, she was overjoyed. So, they escaped from the hands of the terrible demonic god? "Why are you here?" the Xing deity asked. Su Yu landed and stared at the cavern world. He said in a deep voice, "If we didn't come, we would have to collect your corpse." The Xing deity was displeased. "The strength of the book deity is far inferior to mine. What you said is really, then look at what that is." Suyu pointed to an area outside the cavern world that was hidden by a formation. The eldest prince's eyes flashed, and the demonic sword swept forward, breaking the formation. She saw that in that area, there were 3 pitch-black world-breaking talismans, waiting to be activated. World-breaking talismans? The Xing deity was taken aback. If this talisman was activated, the entire cavern world would be destroyed. Even if the Xing deity could resist the power of the world-breaking talismans, it was impossible to keep herself from being seriously injured in the destruction of the cavern world. If the book deity took the opportunity to attack, the probability of her death was as high as 80%. Thinking of this, the Xing deity was shocked and broke into a cold sweat. So, the breath of the book deity in the cavern world was disguised by him to lure me in? Suyu nodded. That's most likely the case. Chapter 1294. Suyu said in a low voice, "This is the tricky part of the book deity. The book deity, the world thinks that he became a deity through books, but they don't know that his body is a book. In this world, wherever there is a book, he can instantly create a clone with a book, and his real body will be reborn in a very distant place in the form of another book. This is why he can leave safely even though we have forced him into a desperate situation many times. Unless there was only one book left in the family, he could easily escape with a thought. This was also why the book deity could escape without being noticed by the Xing deity and put down the bait to lure the Xing deity in." Hearing this, the Xing deity was shocked. "Does that mean he can never be killed? There are as many books in the world as there are hairs on an ox." Suyu shook his head. "No. If he could use this method at any time, he would not have been injured by me and left behind the bad luck. If my guess is correct, the book deity's method has a time limit. Every time he uses it, he needs a period of time before he can use it again." Suyu's eyes gradually narrowed. "He lured you into the trap, and his real body must be hiding nearby. Once you are seriously injured, he will immediately appear and give you a fatal blow. So, the book deity who has just replaced his real body is nearby. If we can find him before he replaces his real body, it will be easy to kill him." As he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. "Well, it's time to end this lowly thing." The Xing deity almost fell into the trap and hated the book deity even more. "Let's split up and search separately. He must be able to sense the range of this cavern world. Your cultivation is above his, and you must be able to sense his existence." Suyu narrowed his eyes and sneered. "Book deity, let's see where you can escape this time." Soon, the first prince's eyes flashed. "Found him. He runs quite fast." "Direction?" Suyu said. "East. Isn't east the direction of the Great Eastern Alliance?" Suyu's eyes were deep. "Let's go to the west." The first prince was stunned. "West? His breath is definitely in the east, and it is disappearing quickly. In other words, the aura of the book deity in the east must be the book deity himself." Suyu shook his head and said, "I know this opponent very well. The one in the east is definitely not his real body. The time it took for him to change his substitute is shorter than I thought. But to be on the safe side, first prince, you will search for the aura in the east. We will search in the west." The west was the direction of the heaven lake. The Xing deity frowned and said, "Even if the aura of the book god in the east is a camouflage, why are you so sure that it is the direction of the heaven pool instead of the south and the north?" Suyu said, "It is very simple. You chased him all the way from the heaven lake to here, and he could only leave behind books along the way as a substitute. There were no books in the south and north that could be used as a substitute, so he could only change into his real body and flee back." The Xing deity's eyes lit up. What Suyu said was indeed reasonable. She couldn't help but praise, "You are really the nemesis of the book deity. Wasn't that right?" He had subdued the book deity all the way from the Great Eastern Alliance to the Devil World, and then from the Devil World to here. Not only did he kill his entire family, but he was also going to kill himself. Whoosh! The crowd was divided into two groups. The first prince first caught up with the aura of the book deity in the east, and the result was exactly the same as Su Yu had guessed. A book containing the aura and divine power of the book deity was placed on a divine bone ship, driven by a little demon, and rushed to the east. The first prince immediately notified Su Yu through the communication jade pendant. At the same time, he turned back and headed to the west, with admiration in his eyes. Su Yu is really a divine man. I am afraid that the book deity will not be able to escape this time. In the west. Soon, the eyes of the sixth princess flickered, and she was the first to discover the aura and divine power of the book deity. In the west, he is galloping towards the heaven lake. Sure enough, 2 hours later, the sixth princess said, "The aura and divine power have stopped." Everyone rushed over to take a look, and an abandoned book was gradually dissipating. "It is him." The sixth princess stared at Su Yu with her pretty eyes full of worship. Su Yu had guessed it correctly. Su Yu smiled coldly. "If we continue to chase him, he can only escape to the west." Half an hour later, the sixth princess found the fluctuations of the book deity again. "He is trying to escape to the south." Su Yu said, "Second princess, you chase him to the south and force him to replace his real body." "Yes." The second princess quickly flew away. Soon after, the second princess received a message and found the book deity, but he replaced his real body on the spot and escaped. Almost at the same time, the sixth princess sensed the west, and the aura and divine power of the book deity reappeared. "He is going to escape to the north. Xing deity, it's your turn to force him to change his real body." The Xing deity immediately flew over and found the gloomy tree goddess. Forced to escape, the book deity replaced his real body. He returned to the west. Su Yu sneered. "A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, and the book deity left more than 3 escape routes. However, it should be the end soon." The sixth princess found the aura of the book deity again. This time he fled south again. Su Yu said, "This time it is up to you. He has been replaced several times, and the distance between us and him is getting shorter and shorter. He has lost the time to replace his real body." Half an hour later, the aura of the book deity in the south disappeared, and he was replaced for the last time by a real body in the west. Su Yu was too close to him, and there was not enough time to wait for the next replacement. Finally, 2 hours later, beside the heaven lake, the book deity had nowhere to run. Although he left a few more books in the north and south, there was no time for him to continue to replace them. Because it was indeed as Su Yu said, every time he replaced his real body, it took at least 2 hours. "Book deity, it's time to end," Su Yu said lightly, and the emerald light flashed around him, and the tree goddess appeared. Today's tree goddess was comparable to the all-access merchant god, and it was easy to kill the book deity. The book deity was physically overdrawn, and his face was pale as paper. "Enough. You have forced me to this point, isn't it enough? If you don't die, of course, it's not enough." Su Yu's eyes were murderous. The book deity sighed. "In fact, with our wisdom, if we can join forces, we can control the entire Xing River. Why bother killing each other? Oh, book deity, you and I are both smart people. Don't tell me this kind of trick to play with people's hearts," Su Yu interrupted him ruthlessly. "You can't escape death today. I only give you 2 choices. First, I will imprison your soul and torture it forever. Second, I will give you a quick death, but you have to answer a question for me." The book deity did not hesitate to choose the second option because there was still hope of survival. "What is the question?" The book deity's eyes turned as if he was thinking about countermeasures and how to get out of this predicament. Su Yu said coldly, "I want to know what is the relationship between you and Yunyazi." In the mansion of the glittering deity, Su Yu unexpectedly learned that Yunyazi was actually the book deity. Chapter 1295. Is he in the Xing River? The book deity, who was thinking about how to escape, suddenly raised his head and asked in surprise, "What?" Su Yu narrowed his eyes. The book deity meant that Yun Yazi didn't belong to the Xing River. Could it be that there was an unknown world outside the Xing River? You really know about his existence. What is your relationship with him? Su Yu's eyes were full of cold light. The book deity was shocked. His eyes were flashing violently. Apparently, he was still surprised by Yun Yazi. Su Yu felt even more suspicious and his gaze turned cold. "I'd better search your soul to find out." The tree deity flashed with green light and stretched out 2 vines to wrap the book deity. The book deity was shocked. He wanted to escape, but he couldn't. He was caught by the tree deity. However, when the tree deity wrapped him up, suddenly, there was a loud noise under the heaven pool, which set off a 30-meter-high wave. A black hair pierced through the wave and wrapped around the book deity who was close to the heaven pool. The book deity screamed and tried to move forward. He was going to pull out the black hair from the bottom of the heaven pool together. Su Yu was stunned by this sudden scene. How could something come out from the bottom of the heaven pool? When he saw the black hair, Su Yu was shocked and shouted in a low voice, "Tree deity, push the book deity into the heaven pool." That black hair was the hair of the giant of the bitter sea. It was tens of thousands of meters high and was full of the unique corrosive smell of the giant of the bitter sea. However, the giant of the bitter sea was in the realm of demons, so it was impossible for him to appear in the heaven pool. The only explanation was that the demonic god of 6 paths used the hair of the giant of the bitter sea to stretch out of the heaven pool after falling into the bottom of the heaven pool. He was going to wrap the book deity and pull the hair up through him. There was no doubt that the demonic god of 6 paths was lying on the hair. Once the book deity pulled the hair up, the demonic god of 6 paths would be released. Su Yu was shocked. He couldn't use the realm of life again. He couldn't find another dead soul worm or a purple-eyed demonic god who burned his divine path to perish together with him. Once he got up, everyone would die. Not a single one of them would be able to escape. The tree goddess was stunned for a moment. After realizing that something was wrong, she made a prompt decision. The 2 vines that were wrapped around the book deity pushed the book deity into the heaven pool. His hair was being pulled and the vines were pushing. Even if the book deity's cultivation suddenly skyrocketed, it wouldn't help. "Wait. Don't I?" Putong. The book deity was pushed into the heaven lake. The black hair immediately let go of the book god and wrapped around the 2 vines of the tree god. The tree goddess made a prompt decision and cut off the vines. With a curl of his hair, he pulled the 2 broken vines into the water. After 2 failures, his hair was on the verge of collapsing, as if he could no longer hold on. However, right at this time, the hair suddenly exerted force, extending a large section, sweeping through the starry river. The tree goddess screamed, and her whole body surged with divine light. She grabbed Su Yu and was about to teleport. However, the hair was too fast. Just as Su Yu was about to teleport, it wrapped itself around his legs. The tree goddess immediately grabbed it, but its hair was wrapped tightly, and it could not break free at all. At the same time, the hair under the water started to climb up crazily, using Su Yu as an anchor. The aura of the demonic god of 6 paths was faintly discernible. The tree goddess was anxious and tried to cut the hair, but no matter what she did, she couldn't move the hair at all. And under the water, a dark red, imposing figure was about to climb out of the water along with his hair. "It's too late. Let go of me." Su Yu stared at the tree goddess and sighed softly. The tree goddess's crystal eyes were full of determination. "No, I can't let go of you. If I let go of you, you will never come back. If I don't let go of you, no one will come back." Su Yu, who was very calm in the face of death, slapped the hands of the tree goddess with a backhand. Just at the moment when the hair was released, Su Yu was pulled into the hair by a great force. Under the water, the dark red demonic figure, who was about to emerge from the water, roared unwillingly, "No!" Plop! As Su Yu fell into the heaven lake, The magnificent devouring force swallowed Suyu, the demonic god of 6 paths, and the hare into the water again. No. The tree goddess screamed and rushed over, but she only got a drop of water. Suyu. The tree goddess murmured softly as she looked at the ripples that were gradually calming down. Her pretty face was full of tears. Her crystal eyes, which used to be bright, were now full of tears. Standing on the heaven lake and crying for a long time, the tree goddess's eyes were full of sadness and despair, but she smiled with tears on her face. You took me away from Jojo, and I will follow you to the end of the world. The beautiful figure tilted, and was about to fall into the heaven lake to follow Suyu. Swoosh! Fortunately, a beautiful figure arrived in time and intercepted her by a hair's breadth. You are crazy! The 6th princess rushed back to the heaven lake and saw this scene. The tree goddess said, Suyu also fell into the heaven lake, and I want to follow him. Boom! The 6th princess was also stunned for a moment, as if she had been struck by thunder. An inexplicable feeling of emptiness surged in her heart, and the 6th princess also looked at the heaven lake without saying a word. Soon after, the 1st prince, the Xing deity, and the 2nd princess rushed back. After learning that Suyu had fallen into the heaven lake, they were all silent. They thought that the demonic god of 6 paths had been killed. Who knew that his vitality was so tenacious that he not only did not die, but also dragged Suyu into the heaven lake. What should we do now? The 2nd princess asked. Without Suyu, they seemed to have lost their backbone and were at a loss. The tree goddess said, You should go to the Great Eastern Alliance. With Shimen Jian and Linlang Fan, you should be able to settle down. As for me, you don't have to worry about me. Everyone present understood what she meant. The 1st prince was silent for a long time, and his eyes were shining. I don't think there is any need to be so pessimistic. Think about it, the demonic god of 6 paths has not died after falling into the heaven lake for so long, so it is not like the rumors say. Once he is swallowed, he will die immediately. Maybe he is not dead yet? Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, and the tree goddess's hollow eyes regained focus. The 6th princess's eyes were full of splendor, and she suddenly stood up. Yes, if it was someone else who fell in, they might have died, but Suyu, who is he? When he came to the demon dimension, he was not even a little demon king, but what happened? Not only did he leave the demon dimension, but he also turned the demon dimension upside down. He can come and go freely in the demon dimension. Who knows if he will do the same under the heaven lake? The tree goddess's eyes were completely restored, and she said, You are right, he will not die. He has escaped from the giant of the bitter sea twice, let alone a mere heaven lake. Xing deity, take them back to the Great Eastern Alliance, unite the 2 alliances, gather all the cavern worlds in the starry sky, and finish what he has not finished. The tree goddess said. What about you? The 6th princess asked. The tree goddess smiled slightly, and her smile was indifferent and elegant. Looking at the water of the heaven lake, her expression was unprecedentedly gentle. I will wait for him to come back. 1 year is not 10 years, and 10 years is not 100 years. I am used to waiting. The 6th princess's heart ached, and she felt a sense of loss, as if they were in the same boat. Holding back her tears, she said with mixed feelings, Okay, let's go. The tree goddess looked back at her and said, I will wait for him, together with you. Thank you. The 6th princess lowered her head and teleported away. Only a crystal teardrop floated in the galaxy. The 1st prince sighed faintly. The 6th princess is proud and arrogant, and she has never fallen in love with anyone. If she does, she will not finish what she started. Swish! All the gods left, leaving the tree goddess sitting cross-legged on the edge of the heaven lake. She turned into a giant tree of this galaxy, standing quietly next to the heaven lake. Gulp! Suyu was pulled into the heaven lake and drank a few mouthfuls of water. The water of the heaven lake was extremely cold, and when the water entered the body, it froze the flesh. What was even more helpless was that, under the water, there was a huge and incomparable force. No matter how he resisted, he was ruthlessly swept down. This descent lasted for half a day, as if the bottom of the heaven lake was as deep as a bottomless pit. Until half a day later, Suyu saw a dark cave at the bottom of the lake. The swallowing force was coming from the cave. Around the cave, it was smooth and there was no place to hide. There was no place to hide. Suyu transformed all the power of the 5 elements into gold and used his divine power to protect his body. Under such circumstances, he was swallowed into the cave. Suyu was dizzy from the rapid flow of water, and it took a long time for it to stop. When the water flow gradually eased, Suyu opened his eyes and found that he was deep in an underwater world. There were ancient buildings at the bottom of the sea everywhere which looked very ancient. Most of them had been eroded by the water, and only some of them were damaged. What a large ruin! Suyu used his soul to scan the surroundings. At least hundreds of millions of miles around him were ruins. Right at this moment, Suyu's head turned black as if something had swum past him. Suyu was shocked. He was using his soul to check the surroundings, but he didn't notice something had swum past his head. Suyu had a premonition of danger, so he swam into a well-preserved ancient ruin. Unlike air, swimming was much slower than flying. What was more strange was that the power of the 5 elements, which could teleport, couldn't be used in this place. It seemed that the power of water in the bottom of the sea was too strong, which led to the imbalance of the 5 elements. Therefore, it was difficult to gather enough power of the 5 elements to teleport. What bad luck! Suyu said to himself. The demonic god of 6 paths had been dragged into this strange underwater world, which was really bad luck. Ah woo! Suddenly, a very faint sound came into Suyu's ears. What? Suyu squinted his eyes and glanced around vigilantly, but there was no one in the ruins. However, Suyu always trusted his intuition. Suyu's eyes turned white as he activated his transparent eye, which could see through everything. Suddenly, he fixed his eyes on the corner of the ruins. 2 strange creatures came into his sight. They were half human and half fish creatures. The upper body was a human, and the lower body was a fish covered with scales. Judging from their appearance, they were 2 women. One was in her early 20s, and the other was 15 or 16 years old. Both of them were extremely beautiful, especially the older one. She had soft golden hair, bright green eyes like luminous pearls, and delicate facial features. Among the human beings, she was 1 in a million. The younger one was not bad either. Her skin was fair, and her face was slightly round. She looked innocent and lovely. Both of them were carrying a small basket on their back. At this moment, they were hugging each other tightly and looking at Suyu in fear. When they found Suyu's eyes were fixed on them, they hugged each other even tighter. However, they didn't move at all. Don't hide. I can see you, Suyu said calmly. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, the 2 mermaids flapped their giant tails and fled like a series of residual shadows. Suyu smiled. Then, a chain formed by the power of the 5 elements flew out abruptly. Chapter 1296. The little mermaid was scared, and the big mermaid stared at Suyu coldly, mumbling something. Strange, it's a rare ancient language. This language has disappeared from the Xing River for hundreds of millions of years. Suyu responded in the language of the mermaids. He had learned all the languages that Yun Yazi had taught him, including this lost language. The big mermaid was stunned. Apparently, she did not expect Suyu to speak in the language of their race. Kill us, we will not submit to you. Suyu touched his cheek. Is it written on my face that I am a bad person, or do I look like a bad person? From the perspective of human aesthetics, Suyu's handsomeness was very rare. There is no need to hide it. You were sent by the Yiksha tribe to take us back to get married, right? We swear to die, the big mermaid said firmly. Suyu shook his head. I don't care what the Yiksha tribe is now. I just want to ask you, where is this place? The two mermaids looked at each other suspiciously. The little mermaid said, Sister, he doesn't seem to be from the Yiksha tribe. He looks a little better than a Yiksha. Su Yu's face darkened. Although I don't know what a Yiksha looks like, I don't know why I feel deeply insulted. Don't bully her, come at me. The big mermaid straightened her chest and looked straight at Su Yu. This is the waters of the mermaid tribe. I'm asking about the entire region. The big mermaid was stunned. The entire region? You mean the Empire of Darkness? I'm asking about all the places, that is, this world. The big mermaid was surprised. Why do you ask this? This world is the ancient god realm, right? Gulp. Su Yu was shocked, and his divine power was out of control. The power of the 5 elements was even more chaotic, causing water to enter his mouth, and he almost choked. Su Yu forced himself to calm down and asked in astonishment, Say that again. Where is this place? The big mermaid looked inexplicable. What a strange person. You don't even know that you live in the ancient god realm? Hiss. Su Yu sucked in a long, cold breath. This is the ancient god realm. The legendary ancient god realm where the overlords of the Xing River and the divine warriors of heaven and earth walked? Under the heaven pool, there was an ancient civilization that had been lost for hundreds of millions of years. After being shocked for a long time, Su Yu finally calmed down. Staring at the two mermaids in front of him, Su Yu said, Don't be afraid, I'm not here to hurt you. I just came here by accident and want to ask for some information. As he spoke, he untied the 5 elemental chains. After a few words, the big and small mermaids also realized that Su Yu really had no malicious intentions towards them. The little mermaid hid behind the big mermaid and timidly stuck out her head. Actually, my sister and I are not hiding from you. Oh? If you aren't hiding from me, then who are you hiding from? Su Yu asked in surprise. 9-headed ES God. Fear appeared in the big mermaid's eyes. Suddenly, Su Yu recalled the huge, mysterious black shadow that flashed past his head, and his heart shuddered slightly. Now, Su Yu didn't have any deities by his side to help him. Even if he ran into any ordinary deity, Su Yu would have a hard time dealing with him. However, what was ES God? At this moment, there was a slight movement outside the ruins. The mermaid's expression changed drastically. Not good, it's the tomb guardian spirit. Let's go. She took the little mermaid and immediately fled. Before leaving, she looked back at Su Yu and hesitantly said, You don't seem to be familiar with this place. Come with us, we will take you to a safe place. Tomb guardian spirit? What was that thing? However, Su Yu still followed them. The mermaid was extremely fast in the water, and in a few blinks of an eye, Su Yu was left behind. In desperation, Su Yu transformed all the power of the 5 elements into the power of water, covering the surface of his body, creating water currents that propelled Su Yu to swim. His speed suddenly soared, and in the blink of an eye, he caught up with the mermaid. In the arms of the big mermaid, the little mermaid opened her mouth wide, as if an egg could be stuffed in it. She was surprised and said, My God, what kind of species are you? How can you swim so fast? The blue veins on Su Yu's forehead twitched. Why was this little girl's words so unpleasant? Don't talk, the tomb guardian spirit's hearing is very sensitive. The big mermaid lowered her voice. Su Yu followed them all the way through the underwater ruins. In just one day they actually crossed the distance of a cavern world. To Su Yu's surprise, the ruins along the way did not stop. It could be seen that in the past, this place was extremely prosperous. We're almost there, the big mermaid said. Su Yu looked into the distance and faintly saw a dark thing, slanted into the bottom of the water. Its size was exaggerated, as it was 10 times the size of a cavern world. When he got closer, he could clearly see that it was a giant ship that had sunk to the bottom of the water. Its whole body was dark, giving people a huge sense of oppression. On the hull of the ship, there were extremely complex runes, each of which was an ancient rune that had been lost in the Xing River world. On both sides of the giant ship, there were dark holes, each of which had an extremely huge cannon lying in it. The giant cannon was very old, all in the shape of a dragon's head, full of boundless domineering majesty. Looking directly at the giant cannon, Suyu felt a chill down his spine and said, What is this? The sacred sky ship? Haven't seen it before? The big mermaid was puzzled. The sacred sky ship, was this also a product of the ancient god realm? You don't even know this? The little mermaid's little mouth was crooked. Swoosh, at this time, a subtle flow of water came from behind. The big mermaid's face changed. Something is catching up, it's the tomb guard spirit. Suyu frowned. It's not one, it's thousands of them. In terms of perception, Suyu was far better than them. By the way, what is the tomb guard spirit you are talking about? Suyu asked. After running for so long, he had not seen a single tomb guard spirit. The big mermaid was already numb to Suyu's lack of common sense. She said, The tomb guard spirit is born from the ancient tomb of the divine warrior of heaven and earth. As long as there is a tomb of the divine warrior of heaven and earth, there will definitely be a tomb guard spirit. They are very fierce. After they are born, they will leave the ancient tomb and wander around the ancient god realm. They will eat any living creature they see. They are very fierce. What do they look like? Suyu was slightly surprised. It sounded a little familiar. There are all kinds of appearances. The little mermaid made an exaggerated gesture. They are very ugly, just a little better than Yiksha. Suyu glared at her. Just now, she also said the same thing about Suyu's appearance. However, Suyu did feel that it was very familiar. He thought about it in his mind and couldn't help but think of something. Not good. We can't escape. The big mermaid noticed the rapid changes in the water, and her heart sank. She turned her beautiful eyes and fell on Suyu. She gritted her teeth and pushed the little mermaid in her arms to Suyu. You swim faster than me. Please take my sister back. I will resist the tomb guard spirit. The little mermaid moved her tail and turned back, saying, No, how can I stop it? Even Brother Ba-E will be swallowed up in one breath. There is no other way. You go first, or none of you will be able to escape. The big mermaid shouted. At this moment, two arms grabbed their waists and hugged them together. Will it be okay if we go together? The big mermaid's face turned red. She was obviously not used to such intimacy, but she had no time to care. She hurriedly said, You can't escape with both of us. Suyu shrugged and quickly swam away with one in each hand. The giant ship seemed to be far away because it was extremely huge. In fact, it was still 4 hours away. After an hour, the tomb guard spirit finally caught up with them. Behind them, there was a dark mass of endless cruelty that could be felt from a distance. Suyu was stunned. It really is this thing. The faces of the big mermaids were gloomy. They were doomed. The big mermaid was even more resentful. I said, If you take me with you, you and your sister can't escape. Hey, what are you doing? Why did you stop? Suyu put down the two of them and said, You said it yourself, there is no escape. Why are you still running? You! The big mermaid was angry and thought that Suyu was stupid, but on second thought, what was the difference between running and not running? Wait a minute, I will be back soon. Suyu said, and in a flash, he turned back. Ah! You are crazy! The big mermaids were shocked. Puff! However, soon after, the dark mass of tomb guard spirits behind them suddenly exploded into a sea of blood. Thousands of tomb guard spirits were killed in an instant. Boundless blood and minced meat rushed over along the surging waves and rushed in front of them. The heads of the ferocious corpses were presented in front of them. Well, it's cleaned up. Suddenly, a person walked out of the sea of blood with a relaxed look and said with a faint smile, It turns out that the tomb guard spirits are wild beasts, which is similar to what I thought. Fierce, devouring everything, often in groups, and very similar to the wild beasts in the Xing River. The problem was, since the wild beasts were born in the tomb of the divine warrior of heaven and earth, then, where did the wild beasts in the Xing River come from? Was it the tomb of the divine warrior of heaven and earth in the Xing River? The big mermaid was stunned and looked at Su Yu without blinking, as if she was looking at a monster. When she glanced at the blood at the bottom of the water, the big mermaid trembled for a long time and said, You killed them all?" Su Yu nodded. "No." The big mermaid breathed a sigh of relief. That was more like it. How could they kill all of them? But where did so much blood come from? "It seems that 2 or 3 ran away," Su Yu continued. The big mermaid's face stiffened again. The little mermaid gasped and said in surprise, "You killed them all by yourself? Even Brother Ba-Yi couldn't do it." "Okay, let's go," Su Yu said, but as soon as he moved, his body suddenly froze and he looked back with a deep frown. "It's really troublesome, there are still more." The big mermaid came back to her senses and said, "There are still tomb guard spirits. Can you still kill them?" Su Yu shook his head. "I used to be able to kill them easily, but now it's a bit tricky." The big mermaid was stunned. They were so fierce just now, but they couldn't kill them in the blink of an eye? "Let's go, I don't want to fight head-on against the god-level tomb guard spirits for the time being," Su Yu said lightly, once again holding the 2 of them and flying towards the giant ship. Chapter 1297. After calming down, the big mermaid subconsciously sensed behind her. After a long time, she still did not feel the slightest breath of the gods. She could not help but be suspicious and secretly said, "Where is the god-level tomb guard spirit? Look at him, he is so calm. Is he deliberately exaggerating?" After a long time, the so-called god-level tomb guard spirit still did not appear. They were very close to the giant ship, and they could feel the breath of the mermaid clan here. The big mermaid was completely relieved and confirmed her guess. She said with a smile, "Where is the god-level tomb guard spirit you mentioned?" Su Yu shrugged. "It has always been around us." "Then why can't we see it?" The big mermaid smiled even more and thought, "If the god-level tomb guard spirit is really around us, how can you be so calm?" Su Yu said, "It's normal that you can't feel it." Su Yu had 2 celestial origin god and hidden divine power. Of course, his perception of the breath of the gods was far better than that of ordinary creatures. The big mermaid in front of him was only a mortal fairy 4th realm, still far from being a quasi-god. The big mermaid shook her head and chuckled. "Well, even if I can't feel it, today you saved me and my sister. The mermaid tribe will thank you." Without Su Yu's help, the sisters would not have been able to escape the pursuit of thousands of tomb guard spirits. "I did not save you for gratitude." "Well, let's go into the giant ship." Su Yu's eyes flashed and he said lightly. After an hour, they finally arrived at the giant ship. The giant ship was half the size of the cavern world. At such a close distance, they could not see its appearance at all. They could only see a dark wall that extended to the depths of the sky. Even closer, they found that the surface of the battleship was undulating with many buildings. The surface of its body was a cavern world. Su Yu was shocked. The entire cavern world was built into a battleship. Such a shocking method of creation was lost in Xing River. Through this battleship, it could be seen how prosperous the ancient god realm was. On the surface of the giant ship, there was a barrier formed by the hull of the ship, exuding a faint reddish light. Su Yu simply looked at it and was surprised. The strength of the barrier was stronger than the barrier of any cavern world in the Xing River. Even the barrier of the demon world was slightly inferior. Even the demonic god of 6 paths wouldn't be able to break through such a horrifying world barrier, let alone ordinary deities. Unless the giant of the bitter sea personally took action, no one in the galaxy could break this barrier. And this was only a remnant barrier that relied on the silent giant ship's array formation. The complete barrier back then must have been even more powerful. Su Yu felt as if he had suddenly entered an extremely prosperous civilization from the Stone Age. What kind of era is the ancient god realm? Suyu couldn't help but murmur. When the big mermaid heard this, she also showed a bit of emotion. Yes, we also often wonder why such a terrifying and prosperous era was destroyed overnight. A mere broken battleship protected our mermaid tribe for hundreds of millions of years. What kind of scene was the ancient god realm in its heyday? The little mermaid pursed her lips and said, "The books say that it was an era of divine warriors. Generation after generation of divine warriors of heaven and earth were born, creating the legendary Gold Clan, Silver Clan, and Bronze Clan. Unfortunately, they are all dead. Except for the remnants of the Bronze Clan, the Gold Clan, the Silver Clan, and the divine warriors of heaven and earth all fell together. For hundreds of millions of years, no new divine warriors of heaven and earth were born. As the three of them reminisced, they came under the barrier. There was an entrance here that could be opened from the inside. If no one responded, even if the demonic god of six paths came, he could only leave with hatred. The big mermaid sacrificed a drop of blood and dripped it on a jade plate at the entrance. The drop of blood seemed to have some kind of sensing effect. Soon, an excited voice came from the inside. "The two princesses are back." Princesses? Suyu was surprised and looked at the two of them again. The big mermaid showed a bit of pride and said, "Are you surprised? My sister and I are actually the princesses of the mermaid tribe. What does it have to do with me whether you are princesses or not?" Suyu smiled. They did not mention their identities along the way for the sake of safety, in case Suyu had any evil thoughts. The big mermaid frowned. "You are really annoying." Buzz. With a soft sound, the entrance opened halfway, but there was still a barrier. However, they could already see each other's situation. Inside the barrier, there was a team of mermaids, each holding a quaint long halberd. There were both men and women. The women were all beautiful and charming, and the men were all extraordinarily handsome. The leader was a male mermaid, with a huge fishtail in 3 colors. His body was majestic and strong, and his facial features were handsome. His eyes were as sharp as lightning, emitting a little fierce light. His aura was also very strong, at the level of a mid-stage perspective deity. He looked arrogant, but his face was particularly friendly to the 2 mermaids. Bai welcomes the 2 princesses back to the tribe. The little mermaid secretly looked at the big mermaid's complicated expression and said with a smile, "Sister, your big brother Bai has come to pick you up personally." The big mermaid said with a blank expression, "Open the door immediately, I want to see the mermaid emperor." Bai bowed and nodded, took a key the size of a human head from his neck, and probed into the barrier. Click, boom, pop. A series of strange sounds, as if some mechanism inside the giant ship had been activated, the sound of countless gears moving one after another. Then, the plates on the surface of the giant ship moved, inlaid with each other, and the entire surface of the giant ship was moving, making loud noises. The majestic momentum was like a science fiction movie. Finally, with a loud bang, the barrier at the entrance condensed into a door that only one person could pass through. The big mermaid took the little mermaid and stepped in first. However, the moment she entered, a 5-colored light suddenly flickered and stopped in front of the sisters. The big mermaid was shocked and took a closer look. She saw Suyu with his hands behind his back, standing calmly at the entrance, looking at the big mermaid. "What are you doing?" the big mermaid asked. Suyu said, "I'm helping you out by destroying some conspiracies. You can go in, but you'd better let go of the sister in your arms." The big mermaid was a little angry. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Haha, I'm just giving you a suggestion out of goodwill. If you're sure that putting a god-level tomb guard spirit into your mermaid tribe won't cause any problems, just take it that I'm nosy," Suyu said lightly. The mermaids inside the barrier were shocked. "A god-level tomb guard spirit? Warrior Bai, please close the entrance immediately," the mermaids behind him hurriedly said after hearing this. Bai Yi's expression was calm as he shouted, Calm down. He is an outsider. How can you believe his nonsense? Come out with me and kill this person. The big mermaid also hugged the little mermaid tightly, and with a sweep of her tail, she suddenly pulled back, stared at Suyu, and said coldly, "Who the hell are you? What is your purpose in approaching us?" Suyu was very suspicious, too suspicious for all parties. Now, he suddenly stopped them and said that her sister was a god-level tomb guard spirit. Of course, she suspected Suyu's identity. Suyu was a little amused. Really? If it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to get some useful information from your mermaid tribe, I wouldn't have suffered any loss watching you idiots kill yourselves. The big mermaid was stunned and thought about it carefully. What good would it do him to slander her sister as a god-level tomb guard spirit? If he really wanted to harm the mermaid tribe, why did he have to do this? Staring at her sister, who was aggrieved in her arms, the big mermaid said, "What evidence do you have to say that?" "Evidence? It's simple." Suyu stared at the little mermaid coldly. "I've been wondering how the group of tomb guard spirits caught up with us." The big mermaid said, "Is it strange? The tomb guard spirits not only have sensitive hearing, but also a very sensitive sense of smell. Even if they are hundreds of millions of miles away, they can still smell our scent. It's not strange that they have been following us all the time, right?" Suyu laughed. "What if I told you that I secretly erased all the scents we left along the way?" In the palm of his hand, traces of silver light appeared. He did not want to entangle too much with the tomb guard spirits, so he simply separated their residual scent, leaving nothing behind. Logically speaking, the tomb guard spirits could no longer catch up with them. However, these tomb guard spirits could still find their direction in the vast water. There was only one explanation: someone was leading them. The person leading them could not be Suyu, so it could only be this pair of mermaid sisters. "One of you sisters must be a well-hidden gravekeeper spirit, so I purposely set up a trap. I told you that a god-level gravekeeper spirit was tailing us, and I secretly observed your reactions." Suyu stared at the little mermaid, revealing a cold gaze. "When I said that I noticed that the god-level tomb guard spirit had caught up with us, do you remember your reaction?" The big mermaid was stunned. It seemed that her sister, who was usually timid, did not say a word. "Yes, there was no reaction," Suyu said. "The normal reaction is to be like your sister and subconsciously sense behind you, but you don't seem to have this subconscious action. What does this mean?" Hearing this, the big mermaid's face changed, and she gradually let go of the little mermaid. She slowly stepped back and said, "Conk you." The little mermaid lowered her head, and her voice, which was supposed to be bright and beautiful, let out a low growl like that of a monster. She suddenly raised her head, and her innocent and lovely little face was filled with malevolence. Roar! With a low growl, the little mermaid's body exuded an amazing tyrannical energy. Her small body was as fast as a streamer, and she instantly broke through the team of mermaids who came out to capture Suyu and went straight into the depths of the fleet. Bang! However, just as she was about to successfully enter the interior of the mermaid tribe, a small mountain suddenly fell and hit her body. The little mermaid looked up, her eyes filled with horror, and she hurriedly retreated. She narrowly avoided the suppression of the five-colored divine light, rolled a few times, and flashed to the side. When she wanted to break into the battleship again, she found that the entrance had been sealed by the small mountain. Intuition told her that the small mountain was very dangerous and should not be touched. Squeak! The little mermaid suddenly turned around and stared at Suyu with resentment, and a strange scream came from her mouth. Chapter 1298. Whoosh! Suyu turned his hand over, and a scripture shining with the light of the galaxy floated into his palm. In the past, there were no less than 10 god-level wild beasts imprisoned in this scripture, and the remaining breath of the god-level wild beasts was unparalleled. Sure enough, although the little mermaid screamed and wanted to rush over and kill Suyu, she stared at the scripture with extreme fear. Indeed, she felt the breath of blood from this human. It was not only the blood of the god-level tomb guard spirit, but also the blood of many other gods. Intuition told her that the human in front of her was very dangerous. Roar. After a loud roar, the little mermaid's eyebrows suddenly split open, and a blood-red, hair-like worm flew out and quickly disappeared into the vast bottom of the water. The little mermaid's body went limp and she fell unconscious. Bai stepped forward to hold her, but a five-colored divine light beat him to it and gently picked her up. Su Yu's eyes were pale, and he could see through every inch of her body. He sneered. Sure enough, you have not given up yet. Chi. Su Yu held a starlight in his right hand and pressed it on her chest. When the mermaids saw this, their faces were a little strange. Bai was angry. Bastard, how dare you molest the little princess's sacred body? Bai slapped but was stopped by the big mermaid. Bai, stop. Flying over, the big mermaid stared at Su Yu's palm. Although this palm was indeed pressed on a part that should not be touched, at this moment, if she still suspected that Su Yu would harm her sister, she would really be stupid. Sure enough, the silver light in Su Yu's palm slowly extracted a faint blood-red line from the little mermaid's chest, struggling and twisting unwillingly. This is the divine clone of the god-level tomb guard spirit? The big mermaid recognized it, and her pretty face turned cold. The god-level tomb guard spirit was really cunning. However, when she looked at Su Yu, her crystal eyes were filled with deep surprise. Before, Su Yu had said that he could kill the god-level tomb guard spirit at will, and she did not take it to heart. But now, she had to take it seriously, because he really scared away the god-level tomb guard spirit. She didn't think that a simple threat could scare away the ferocious tomb guard spirit. Su Yu must have something that the god-level tomb guard spirit was afraid of. Clenching his 5 fingers, Su Yu crushed the divine thought and handed the little mermaid over to the big mermaid. Then, he waved his sleeves, put away the 5 elements mountain that blocked the entrance, and entered the ship with his hands behind his back. Ba Yi's face turned cold as he shouted, "Stop! Who allowed you to enter without permission?" The big mermaid was angry. He had saved her and her sister twice, and he had even saved the mermaid tribe from a catastrophe. How could he have such an attitude? "Shut up!" The big mermaid shouted angrily. Bai said, "But I told you to shut up." The big mermaid's face was cold. Bai clenched his fists, the muscles in his cheeks squirming a few times, but he finally shut his mouth. However, when he looked at Su Yu, his gaze was filled with resentment. Su Yu calmly looked at him, and the corners of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. The inside of the battleship was a completely different world. There were many complicated and huge mechanisms densely packed inside the giant ship. Unfortunately, most of them were damaged, and only a small part maintained operation. The barrier protection of the battleship was one of them. Su Yu looked at the ancient civilization that had been lost for hundreds of millions of years with great interest and was amazed. The civilization contained in this battleship was less than 1/10,000th of the Xing River. If he could have a complete battleship, it would be equivalent to the entire Great Western Alliance. Of course, Su Yu was most curious about the giant cannons. When he came to the place where the giant cannons were placed, Su Yu was disappointed to find that all the cannons were damaged internally. None of them could be used, let alone replicating them. "Master, I apologize for Bai's rudeness." The big mermaid came behind him and bowed apologetically. Su Yu did not look back. He did not care. The big mermaid thought that Su Yu was still angry and said helplessly, "Bai is usually very smart and capable, but, maybe because we sisters are very close to you, he is jealous, so, a smart and capable person would lose his basic ability to judge the situation?" Su Yu looked back and said lightly, "In the case of a god-level tomb guard spirit that could sneak in, as the keeper of the key, not only did he not listen to the advice of his subordinates to immediately close the entrance to ensure the safety of the entire mermaid tribe, but he also led the guards out. Your Highness, do you really think such a person is suitable to guard such an important entrance?" The big mermaid understood the meaning behind his words. You mean, Su Yu shook his head and said, this is an internal power dispute among the mermaids. I will not get involved, but for my personal safety, I will give you a suggestion. His performance just now has lost the quality of a capable gatekeeper. There is definitely something wrong with him. I advise you to replace him as soon as possible. The big mermaid hesitated, but Su Yu's words were reasonable. Thinking about it carefully, Bai's performance was too abnormal. Pass on my order Bai to reflect on his mistakes and hand over the entrance key to me. Not long after, a group of mermaids brought the key. Oh? I didn't know that you have such prestige in the mermaid tribe. Su Yu looked at her. For some reason, in front of Su Yu, the big mermaid felt a little pressured, as if she was facing a big shot. You can call me Luju. The big mermaid Luju said, her expression gradually becoming serious. May I ask, when did you find out that there was a god-level tomb guard spirit in my sister's body? Su Yu looked around and said, I noticed it when I first found you sisters. The moment the transparent eye was cast, Su Yu vaguely discovered that there was something strange in the little mermaid's body, but the other party hid it well, so Su Yu did not care. From the beginning. So, my sister has long been possessed by the god-level tomb guard spirit. Luju was shocked. After pondering for a while, Green Bead murmured, no wonder we encountered so many gravekeeper spirits there. Everything makes sense now. At that time, there were very few tomb guard spirits in the water area. I was wondering why there were so many at once. It turns out that there were god-level tomb guard spirits nearby. Luju whispered softly. After pondering for a long time, the big mermaid's eyes gradually understood. Perhaps you are right. There is an internal problem in our mermaid tribe. How could it be so coincidental that when our two princesses went out, they were chased by a large number of tomb guard spirits? Now that I think about it, it was our whereabouts that were leaked. My sister was possessed by the god-level tomb guard spirit, but who could it be? Su Yu said lightly, it's very simple. You analyze the current situation of your tribe, and you can roughly guess who is behind it. If I am not mistaken, your tribe has recently been involved in a serious power struggle, and you are a very promising candidate for power. Luju's eyes widened and she stuttered, who told you that? Su Yu was obviously a guy who did not even have common sense. How could he know that the mermaid tribe was fighting for power? Ordinary mermaids did not know about it. However, since Su Yu came in, he had not spoken to the other mermaids. How did he know? Of course you're the one who told me that. A princess can casually change the commander of a warship? This kind of abnormal situation would never happen in normal times, unless you took over the authority of the supreme ruler. But from the way they address you, you are still a princess. Therefore, you only have power, but not a name. If you don't have a name, you won't be able to speak properly. The power in your hands will definitely cause a fight. I guess that the supreme ruler has either just died or is seriously ill. Under such circumstances, isn't it normal for there to be a chaotic scene of power struggle? Luju was stunned, and after a long time, she took a few deep breaths and stared at Su Yu, her beautiful eyes bursting with brilliance. You are really a god. You saw the whole picture with one move of mine. She was utterly shocked by Su Yu. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed that there was such an admirable and frightening creature in this world. As you said, the supreme ruler is seriously ill. He is my father, and before he fell into a coma, he handed over the power to me. As a result of my father's 3 former generals, one of them helped me wholeheartedly, while the other 2 kept their own armies and kept a distance from me. They had the intention of rebelling, intending to fight for the throne of the mermaid emperor. Su Yu listened and did not say a word. Luju probed, Sir, dare I ask, between the 2 of them, who do you think is more likely to be the mastermind of this conspiracy? Them? Su Yu laughed, his eyes shining brightly. I feel that you should be more wary of the brave general who helped you wholeheartedly. Lu Zhu said solemnly, Sir, General Blackfish helped me wholeheartedly. Without him, I am afraid I would not have lasted until now. The mastermind of this conspiracy could not have been him. Su Yu smiled and said, See, even you think that he cannot be the murderer, let alone others. What do you mean? It's very simple. If you die, who will be the first beneficiary? Of course, it will be those two who kept their own armies, so they will undoubtedly be the target of suspicion. And at this time, General Blackfish, who is the most unlikely, comes to call for revenge for you and your sister. Who do you think the people of the mermaid tribe will side with? The traitor who killed the royal family, or General Blackfish, who is loyal to the royal family? Lu Zhu felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She had never thought of this possibility. But he has been helping me to resist the two generals who are suspicious. Haha, if he sees you and your sister being suppressed to the point where you can't even breathe, won't the power be completely taken by those two generals? So, of course, he will support you and your sister to fight against the other two generals. Now you and your sister are almost useless. Once you die, he will gain the support of the mermaid tribe. So, if you don't die, who will? Lu Zhu was struck by lightning again, and her worldview was completely subverted. Obviously, what Su Yu said was all fantasy, but every sentence was incisive and to the point. It was as if Su Yu was a high and mighty bystander, watching everything in the East Stream. Well, that's all I have to say. It's up to you how to choose. I am not interested in the affairs of your mermaid tribe. I am here to look up some information. Lu Zhu recovered from the shock, and her attitude towards Su Yu became more respectful, as if he was a god. Sir, please speak. The mermaid tribe will fully assist you. Su Yu nodded. Well, I have two things to investigate. First, how to leave the ancient god realm. Second, I want to collect information on all the advanced weapons in the ancient god realm. He could not stay in the ancient god realm forever. The great war of the galaxy was imminent, and he had to go back. Chapter 1299. Leave the ancient god realm? Lu Zhu was stunned. What are you talking about? Lu Zhu doesn't understand. Su Yu was also stunned and said hesitantly, Go to the world outside the ancient god realm. There is a world outside the ancient god realm? Lu Zhu asked. This. Su Yu was stunned for a moment, realizing that he was too impatient. When he was in Xing River, did he ever think about the existence of the ancient god realm of Xing River? Let's change the question. Where did we meet? Su Yu said. That deep passage was probably the only passage between the ancient god realm and Xing River. Lu Zhu was surprised. You mean there? It is called the Endless Origin. Every moment there is endless water of the Star River pouring in, so it is called the Endless Origin. The Endless Origin. Speaking of which, the water of the Star River was indeed pouring into the heaven pool. Su Yu's eyes lit up. Has anyone ever successfully passed through the Endless Origin? In response, Lu Zhu looked serious. No, not even one. Since the beginning of the ancient god realm, countless imperial sacred factions have tried to explore the end of the Endless Origin, rushing against the current, but no one has succeeded. Su Yu pondered. What is the so-called imperial sacred faction? How strong are they? Lu Zhu's eyes were filled with awe. The imperial sacred faction is the descendant of the divine warriors of heaven and earth from hundreds of millions of years ago. Although those ancient divine warriors have fallen, their descendants still live in the world and control everything in the ancient god realm. They are the supreme rulers. Every sacred faction has a strong person at the level of the Holy Lord. I can't say exactly how strong they are, but they are very strong. In their hands, the god-level tomb guard spirit can be destroyed in a breath. Destroying a god-level wild beast in a breath? Su Yu was shocked. In the Xing River, there were many deities who could kill a god-level wild beast. At least the top 20 deities of the Great Eastern Alliance had this kind of strength. However, an existence that could be destroyed in a single breath, which was far superior to ordinary gods, did not exist in the Eastern and Western alliances. If one had to compare, their strength was equivalent to the demonic god of six paths. Were the descendants of the divine warriors of heaven and earth so strong? And listening to Luju's tone, there was more than one such sacred faction. If such an existence failed to pass through the endless origin after hundreds of millions of years, it would be extremely difficult for Suyu to go back. What was the reason for their failure? Green Bead thought for a while and said, "That's because there's a nine-headed god that has existed for billions of years in the endless origin. Anyone who gets close to it will die. Rumor has it that it's the spiritual pet of a divine emperor of heaven and earth. It lives in the endless origin. Once it's alarmed, even the leader of the imperial sacred faction will not be able to survive." Suyu was secretly surprised. When he recalled the giant black shadow that had suddenly flashed past his head, his heart shuddered. That must be the nine-headed god. Even an existence like the demonic god of six paths was easily swallowed by the nine-headed god. Just how powerful was this nine-headed god? The reason why he survived was probably because in the eyes of the nine-headed god, he was too insignificant and disdained to attack, right? Apart from that, there's another crucial reason for failure. There's a supreme power of laws within the endless origin. Anyone who tries to go against the flow will be suppressed by the power of laws, making it impossible for them to go against the flow. Suyu recalled the indescribable devouring power that he had felt in the water, and he knew that he really couldn't resist it. Even a Star River strong man like the demonic god of six paths could barely climb out by relying on the giant of the bitter sea's hair. Thinking of this, Suyu's heart sank. It seemed to be more troublesome than he had imagined. Just wanting to return to the Star River was already fraught with difficulties. In other words, there was no hope at all. However, I heard that during the exploration, the four great imperial sacred factions joined forces and successfully penetrated the endless origin. It's a pity that they didn't get any response. The nine-headed god detected it and rushed over to devour all the faction masters of the imperial sacred faction. Suyu suddenly remembered the information he had read about the heaven pool in the Alliance Master's mansion. Many years ago, a terrifying beam of destructive light shot out from the bottom of the heaven pool. It penetrated the Star River, penetrated the demonic dimension, and severely injured the giant of the bitter sea. Could that be the so-called energy shot out by the Imperial Sacred Faction? If that was the case, it wasn't impossible to penetrate the endless origin with the help of that energy. What exactly was that energy? Do you know? Luju shook her head. That was an extremely ancient era. Our mermaid tribe did not have detailed records of it. It was all passed down by word of mouth. However, the Mermaid Emperor once speculated that it was most likely a replica of the four great imperial sacred factions' lost weapon from ancient times, the World Annihilation Plate. Suyu's heart thumped. A weapon passed down from the ancient god realm? What is the World Annihilation Plate? Luju said. From the little information we have, we only know that it was the treasure of the World Annihilation Emperor, the number one emperor of the world. It is ranked 5th and has the ability to break the rules of heaven and earth. Upon hearing this, Suyu's pupils shrank and he secretly gasped. The 5th-ranked Imperial Saint artifact? The Milky Way star sand was ranked 21st and it already had the ability to defy the heavens. How terrifying would the 5th rank be? He thought about how the demonic dimension had been penetrated and how the giant of the bitter sea had been injured. This was just a replica. The power of the real thing could be seen. If he could master this energy, could he use it to break through the rules of heaven and earth in the endless origin and return to the Star River? Then where is the replica of the World Annihilation Plate now? Suyu's eyes were filled with hope. In the stomach of the nine-headed god, Luju said. Back then, when the faction masters of the 4 great imperial sacred factions were devoured at the same time, the world annihilation plate was nowhere to be found. I think it must have been swallowed into the stomach of the 9-headed god. Upon hearing this, Suyu felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Even the existence of the demonic god of 6 paths was swallowed by the 9-headed god. How could he dig out the world annihilation plate from its stomach? Has the blueprint of the world annihilation plate been circulated? Suyu asked again. Since the 4 great imperial sacred factions were able to replicate it, there must have been a way to craft it that had been circulated to the world. I don't know about that. Our mermaid tribe is only a small part of it. How could we have heard about the imperial sacred factions? Suyu did not give up. Do the 4 great imperial sacred factions still exist today? They're gone. Back then, when the 4 great sects leaders were devoured, 90% of the experts who went with them were killed. Soon, they declined and were swallowed by other imperial sacred sects. Millions of years ago, they were completely removed from the world. Disappointment flashed in Suyu's eyes. However, it is said that the people of the 4 great imperial sacred factions still exist in the world. However, they have disappeared without a trace and are very difficult to find. Suyu nodded. Thank you very much. In that case, how much information about the weapons of the ancient god realm does the mermaid tribe have? For example, do you have the blueprint of this sacred sky warship? Chapter 1300. Make a copy for me, Suyu said bluntly. Luju looked embarrassed. I am afraid it will be difficult unless the Mermaid Emperor agrees in person. However, the Mermaid Emperor is seriously ill and unconscious. I am afraid he will not be able to do anything for a while. Do I need the Mermaid Emperor to agree? Suyu nodded slightly. Okay, take me to the Mermaid Emperor. I will take a look at his injury. No need, Luju looked sad. The Mermaid Emperor was seriously injured by the Yiksha poison. This poison can only be cured by the endless spiritual pearl born from the endless origin. However, the endless spiritual pearl only blooms and bears fruit once every 1,000 years. To get it, you need luck. Obviously, the princess and her sister who collected the spiritual pearls in the past were not so lucky. Take me to see it first, Suyu said. Okay. Luju's eyes were dim. She did not have any hope. Although Suyu had many magical abilities, she did not think that Suyu could cure the poison that even the gods could not. As a princess, she could enter the mermaid palace at will. In the depths of the palace, in front of a palace surrounded by several gears of the sacred sky warships, a group of golden mermaids surrounded. They were not only more majestic but also more powerful. Obviously, they were the imperial guards under the control of the royal family. As he glanced at them, Suyu's eyes flashed. Entering the palace, Suyu saw the Mermaid Emperor on a jade bed carved from white jade. He was a handsome middle-aged man with a somewhat green face. He was also a rare handsome man. However, what shocked Suyu was that the Mermaid Emperor's whole body was black and festered in many places. Especially his lower body, it was almost rotten, and his whole body emitted a foul stench, which was in sharp contrast to his handsome face. This rotten smell. Suyu frowned slightly, feeling very familiar. Luju stood in front of the bed, silently crying. Our mermaid tribe and the Yiksha tribe have been fighting for a piece of spirit vein for many years. A year ago, the Yiksha tribe proposed to jointly develop it and invited both sides to sign a contract at the spirit vein. Who knew the Yiksha tribe colluded with a group of sinful gods in the dynasty, and together they injured my father and poisoned him. Suyu did not care about the origins of the grudge, and he did not intend to get involved. After looking down for a while, Suyu said, I can save the Mermaid Emperor, but can you guarantee that he will give me the information I want? Green Bead's eyes widened with tears, and she couldn't believe her ears. She stammered, You mean you can save the Mermaid Emperor? It's not a big problem, Suyu said. Lu Zhu burst into tears of joy. In her excitement, she did not care about the difference between a man and a woman. She grabbed Su Yu's shoulder and shook it. Are you serious? Su Yu nodded. Can you guarantee that the Mermaid Emperor will agree? If I can't guarantee it, there's no need for me to help him. This. Lu Zhu hesitated. The information was in the hands of the Mermaid Emperor, so it was obviously confidential information. It was hard to say whether the Mermaid Emperor would hand it over to Su Yu out of gratitude after he woke up. After pondering for a while, Lu Zhu turned around and took a bright red bead from her neck. It was about the size of a thumb, and she handed it to Su Yu. Take this. When the Mermaid Emperor wakes up and sees it, he will definitely agree to help you. Su Yu took a look at Lu Zhu, who had a strange look on her face, and muttered to himself, Can this pearl guarantee it? Seeing that his expression did not seem to be fake, Su Yu said, All right, I will start the treatment. However, before that, move the Imperial Guards outside away. No. What if during the treatment, the two traitors find out that something is wrong and launch a coup? Su Yu sighed softly. I'm afraid that it will be them who will disturb me. You mean them? It's impossible. They were personally trained by my father. Lu Zhu said in surprise. Su Yu nodded slowly. A smart enemy will give you a fatal blow when you least expect it. Lu Zhu pondered for a while, carefully thinking about what Su Yu had done, and gritted her teeth. All right. She turned around and went out. Soon after, she came back, only to hear the sound of neat collisions of armor fading away. Nodding slightly, Su Yu immediately used the Milky Way star sand to absorb the Yiksha poison in the Mermaid Emperor's body. Under Lu Zhu's shocked gaze, the poison that even the gods could not do anything about was extracted by Su Yu's right palm, bit by bit. Great! The Mermaid Emperor can be saved, Lu Zhu said in surprise. Su Yu shook his head lightly. Is that good? I think this is the most dangerous moment for the Mermaid Emperor. Prepare some artifacts immediately so that we can escape from the sacred sky worship in time. Escape? You mean? Su Yu said, in a situation where the three great generals are unreliable, once they know that the Mermaid Emperor is being rescued, what do you think they will do? Wait for the Mermaid Emperor to wake up, and then you will report in detail what they have done during this period? Or in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound, in for a pound, and end the Mermaid Emperor's life? Lu Zhu's heart trembled. Do it immediately. Su Yu frowned. As the princess of the mermaid tribe, Lu Zhu could not resist being ordered by an outsider like this. She said hurriedly, Okay, I will prepare it immediately. Watching her leave, Su Yu shook his head secretly. She has been pampered all her life. Without the cruel competition of the Xing River, her reaction is too slow. It seems that I can't count on her. Half a day later, Lu Zhu returned and said, I have asked my trusted aide to prepare a Garuda, which is hidden outside the palace and can be used at any time. Su Yu nodded. The treatment lasted for half a day, and the dark, rotten surface of the Mermaid Emperor's body returned to its normal color. The divine power in his body finally played a role, repairing the rotten parts on its own. In another 2 to 4 hours, it would almost be fully recovered, and he would be able to wake up on his own. The Mermaid Emperor was not weak, comparable to the Xing deity and the merchant god. Once he woke up, the situation of the mermaid tribe would be settled. But at this moment, as expected, there was a faint fluctuation outside the palace. Lu Zhu also noticed it, and while she was shocked, she secretly admired Su Yu's foresight. The two looked at each other, and Lu Zhu shouted, I will open the way. She grasped the air, and the water around her quickly turned cold, condensing into pieces of ice. Swoosh! Swoosh! The ice broke through the door of the palace and shot out. There was a series of screams, and as expected, a group of ambushing soldiers was shot. Let's go! Lu Zhu rushed out of the palace and put her hands together in front of her chest. The water above the palace rippled, and an eel-like metal artifact appeared. Suyu also appeared at this moment, grabbing the unconscious mermaid emperor and quickly jumping onto the ship. Luzhu flew to the control panel in front and instilled the mortal fairy's strength into it. But what made Luzhu's heart sink was that the artifact named Garuda did not respond. What's going on? It was fine just now. Cold sweat broke out on Luzhu's forehead. At this critical moment, the escape artifact actually malfunctioned. Suyu glanced with his transparent eye and secretly shook his head. A certain mechanism under the bottom of the ship had been cut off.